pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Okay, so we have a couple of changes to the agenda up front. Number 13 on the agenda has been removed. And number 12 is going to be moved ahead of number 9. So we'll change those when we get to them. The first order of business, as it is every week, is public comments. Do we have any public comments this afternoon, this evening? Okay, being no public comments, we need to approve a set of minutes for October 6th. So we move to accept and approve the minutes of October 6th, 2015 as shown. We have a second.
Second.
Toss it up. Okay. Any comments about the minutes of October 6th, 2015? Okay, no comments. All those in favor of accepting? Right to 0. Okay, the next, item 3, correspondence. Items A through Y. Move to accept and approve the list of correspondences as shown, A through Y. A second.
Second.
Okay. Any comments on the correspondence? Tim?
Yep. After seeing some letters that we received and some in my personal box as well, are we going to be talking about Saracen and Upper Lot plans anytime soon? Does anybody know? Such as apartment building?
They haven't proposed that, so there's nothing to talk about.
Nothing to talk about?
That's correct. There's no proposal at this time.
Just checking.
Till such time as they put something in front of us, we have nothing to talk about. So I have two questions about the correspondence. The first one is the COA, Minuteman Services. It says that the Maynard seniors received $950,491 worth of services, and our local assessment was only $2,866.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's a lot of state, EPH, other funding sources
Okay,
that contribute to that.
okay, just,
But we do pay that small assessment for the services that's budgeted for in the COA budget as its own line item for Minuteman.
okay, and the second question surrounds the 3 or 4 pieces of paper we've got over the past 2 weeks, and it was in this correspondence about Comcast and Verizon license contract renewals.
Yes.
The state suggests we have a cable advisory committee, which I don't think we have. Do we need one? How do we handle that, and should we have one?
Yeah, we'll be discussing that in the very near future. As notices, we should have some advisory piece. Yeah, I think there's a discussion there. Certainly, I'd mentioned it before that we want to look to utilizing services of special counsel that deals with these licensing renewals, but yeah, that's just kind of an FYI now.
Okay.
They do a 3-year notice, and we're getting to that point where we have to have the conversation in the future.
Okay. So does anybody else have any questions about the correspondence A through Y? Okay, no more questions? All those in favor of accepting the correspondence? Other than 5. Okay, the consent agenda. Move to accept and approve the consent agenda A, B, and C. Is second?
Second.
Any comments about any of them?
Yeah, do we need to have a representative at the Boys and Girls Club event to do the proclamation?
I was planning to go. Tim expressed an interest and Tarek expressed an interest. Does anybody else have an interest in going?
Yeah, I'd be interested in going, but not if there's enough coverage, so it's not a big deal.
That's 3 of us. And Kevin's going to be there. Kevin and Andrew both, right?
Yeah, we typically attend.
Full house?
Yeah, I don't even know. I know her father and her family and whatever. That's okay, I don't need to be there.
Okay.
If
Before
you
we...
change your mind in the not too distant
Yeah,
future.
we could,
We have some time to,
anybody else have any
Just let me
comments
know.
about these?
Yeah, right.
Questions? Okay, so the consent agenda includes the second one, appointment of Special Officer Mary McHugh. And before we get to that, I think offer the thanks to Officer McHugh on behalf of the Board of Selectmen for 27 years of service to the town. Although she is not here, I'm sure the chief will pass it along, and maybe she'll be watching. I don't know. But and also for the distinction of becoming the very first female officer to retire from the police department in Maynard. Her service to the town has been greatly appreciated, and my best wishes from myself and I would guess the rest of the board for her long and healthy retirement. So, all those in favor of accepting, of course, the consent agenda, this time, raise your hand. All right. Okay, those are done. Item 5 is the Conservation Commission Board Member Appointment. James Bullis?
Yes.
Did I pronounce that right?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Right here?
All right, we saved you a seat right in front,
Oh, great.
unless you prefer to stand, but sitting's more comfortable.
That's fine.
Okay,
I'm not used to speaking into microphones, so.
okay, so, we typically let you tell us, I guess, a little bit about why you want to be on the Conservation
Committee?
Board, and then we ask a couple questions,
Sure.
and then we vote.
Okay,
Your call.
sounds great. So I'm a relative newcomer to Maynard. I'm a biologist by training. I came out to the Boston area to do a postdoc at Brandeis. I was originally at Waltham, but I got a permanent job in the area, so then I moved here to Maynard, and I'm making this hopefully my place to stay for the rest of my life. I got my kids in school. I love the town, and I saw the opening for the Conservation Committee, and I thought it would be a good way for me to serve the community and also maybe use a little bit of my background in biology in the process. So it's basically why I want to be on the Conservation Committee.
Okay. Jason, any questions for?
Yeah, have you attended any of the?
Yeah, I've been to several, 3 meetings so far already.
Mr. Chair, just to add to that piece, the Conservation Commission referred this appointment up. They have met with the applicant and recommending his appointment.
Okay. Can I have no other questions?
David?
No, I just would like to thank you for stepping up to volunteer for the community. We always are looking for new people with new ideas and whatever.
Thank you.
So thank you. One question. I guess if you can talk a little bit about your thoughts relative to conservation itself and how it might play in with Maynard's future.
Yeah. I think there's a balance that has to be struck there. We want to make sure that the wetlands that we have, we can preserve to the best we can, and that includes making sure that we're trying to do the most for the indigenous species, try to get rid of the invasive species. I know that there has to be a balance also, though, between development in the town and conservation. So I guess it's my goal is to make sure that I want Maynard to remain as beautiful as I can for my children who are being raised here. I want to try to preserve as much as I can, but I also realize that there will be development in the area that will take place. I want to make sure that development does take place in a manner that will help to preserve the community as well as possible.
Great, thank you very much, and again, thank you for your interest in.
Thank you.
Tim, any questions for Jim, James?
Welcome, and thank you for your interest.
Thank you.
Really don't have any further questions.
Okay.
Terrence?
Is it James, or do you like to go by Jim, or?
I actually go by Jamie. I'm the
Jamie.
third James in my family, so
All right.
Grandpa is James, Dad was Jim, I was Jamie.
All right, so Jamie, welcome to Maynard.
Thank you.
And thank you for the,
Kind of a little curveball, by the way, but we'll accept it.
Okay,
we
yeah.
have to change the,
Volunteer, we'll accept it.
yeah. No, I did. In all seriousness, thank you. And, I hope that you bring your professional acumen to the job as well as, but I am encouraged to hear you give sort of the two outstanding sides that we all talk about is preservation, but also, progressiveness with developing the town. So keeping that in the frame of mind is always good for conversations that you're going to have going forward. So thank you.
I agree. Thank you.
I don't have any questions myself, but I do thank you, like everyone else, for your interest and your assistance in participating in the Conservation Commission.
Thank you.
So, no more comments. All those in favor of appointing Jamie to this position?
Is there a term on that?
Ends June 30th, 2018. So we have him for approximately 3 years.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
All right.
And I
Thanks,
vote in
Jamie.
favor.
Enjoy.
With a second on that?
I don't know.
Did you do a second of that?
All right.
Yeah, Terrence seconded it.
Okay.
Thank you. Well,
Make sure you got that.
Okay. And then, the agenda report, but it's not on the regular agenda. Lauren Bell had a conflict of interest with his job in the planning board, so he had withdrawn his interest. So that is no longer part of the picture. So, moving on to number 6, request for common victual license and carry-in license, GG Restaurant LLC, which will be at 177 Main Street. Hi, Gigi.
Yes.
Welcome.
I know you're not Gigi because I already met her, so.
Yeah, I'm surprised by the next day that I'm sitting next to you.
Yeah, I'm her husband, by the way. I'm
Okay.
Fan Win.
And I'm Gigi.
Welcome.
Nice to meet you both.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion to accept and approve a request for a common victual license and carry-in license for Gigi's Restaurant at 177 Main Street with Gigi and Fan?
Yes.
Fan, okay, and you have a second.
Second.
Okay, so, and any comments or questions for the applicants?
Yeah, if I may.
Go ahead, David.
Welcome to Maynard. I guess the first question is what actually attracted you to Maynard to, open your business here?
We live in Acton, and
great.
the commute is 7 minutes.
That beats my commute, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, even though Maynard is a smaller town, just like Acton or the surrounding towns here, but the downtown area in Maynard seemed to be one of the largest, and there seemed to be a lot of activity going on, with all the restaurants and all the businesses here, and I think it's a great opportunity for us to just add something to the area. We're going to be serving Vietnamese cuisine and sushi, which I didn't see any of those restaurants around here. And that's what brought us here.
Great. I was telling my wife about this, and she said Vietnamese food is not sushi. Is there something going on there? Is there?
Well, just kind of, icing on the cake, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, sushi is widely served at any restaurant now. You can go to Korean, and you can go to Chinese. You can still get sushi there. So I actually brought a menu to show you guys later if you guys are interested. But
The other question I have, if I may, is just finally, and this will be my last one.
sure.
Have you opened any other restaurants, or is this the first time that you've gone into this type of?
I actually have a catering company in Miami. We moved up here about 3 years ago, just serving similar type of food. But we usually go to people's houses, and we'll do a wedding, we'll do anniversary. But we're a mobile kitchen, so we go to people's houses and
Thank you again, and I can tell you that there was, as soon as you put up your sign,
Yeah.
there was some buzz on social media.
Really?
People are very excited about it,
Oh.
so I think you'll be successful, and I wish you luck.
Oh, thank you very much.
So much.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear it.
Do you still have the business in Miami?
No, we move up here.
Did bring the truck up?
No.
Okay. Yeah, could be hungry. Okay, any questions, Jason?
No.
Okay. All right. Tim?
Thank you.
Any questions?
Oh, thank you. This is definitely, as you said, it's a new restaurant, something different for downtown, so appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I make extra coffee, but it's turned out not too good.
we can reproduce, that's
We'll
fine.
pass it around.
Okay.
We can send it out,
Thank
thank
you
you.
very much. Terrence, any questions?
Yeah, quick question. So, carry-in license applicant as well, so I'm assuming at some point you're going to be looking to get a full-fledged liquor license, either beer and wine?
We are in the process, the application process, yes.
November 17th.
Coming back.
All right, and that's
I
it.
don't have a date.
All right, great.
Okay.
That's it, and just welcome. I actually ironically had some Vietnamese cuisine this past weekend.
Oh, yeah? Where did you go? Is there...
It was in New Hampshire.
Oh, okay.
At Saigon and Tokyo and Dover were very, very good, so I'm looking forward to having you a lot closer, obviously, so
All right.
I wish you well.
All right, thank you very much.
It's closer than my experience that I was relaying to them, which was in Seattle a few weeks ago, so the better commute to New Hampshire.
Yeah, New Hampshire's a little short of sushi.
I echo the welcome. Just, Mr. Chair, for those that are listening, I know you mentioned 177 Main Street, but what we're referencing is the old cast iron kitchen business that has been vacant for now about 3 years, so it's great to have a new operator in there and excited, a new business in town, a space that's been vacant for some time, so.
I just have a question about the carrying license and I'm assuming all the restrictions are the same as if you're selling this liquor off the shelf in your facility, so. And I know personally that Gigi knows all about that because we sat in the tips training, so I'm familiar with that and just, you just can't stress the importance of those rules enough, and I'm sure that won't be a problem, but just mention it, so.
Absolutely.
Okay, and unless you guys have anything to add, or there's any public comments or public questions, I think we're ready to vote on these two applications for the common victual license and also for the carry-in license. We'll do the common victual first. Motion to accept and approve the request for a new common victualler license for Gigi's Restaurant at 177 Main Street. Have a second. You already did that. Second. Okay. We've done the comment piece. All those in favor? Okay, and now I move to accept and approve the request for a carry-in license for Gigi Restaurant at 177 Main Street. Have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Tim. Any comments on that portion? No comments, so all those in favor of the carrying license? So, thank you very much and good luck, and we'll see you when you open.
Yes,
We'll be the first ones in.
Oh, yes.
That's a good question. Do you have a date actually that you're shooting for? or-
You know, the only thing pending now is the Board of Health. I'm working with Beth Grossman closely to get everything in place. But we'll fix up the place, almost there, and just kind of reorganizing things and get the kitchen ready.
Before the holidays?
Which holiday?
Thanksgiving?
I'm shooting for mid of November
Okay,
right now.
good.
That's the target date.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Will you be there? Will you be on site?
Absolutely, we will be in there.
He would be
Yeah.
most likely the chef,
Can you be the boss?
and I'm be the boss.
Wouldn't be Gigi's without Gigi.
Right.
So you see a lot of
Oh, yeah.
me.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, great.
All right.
Thank you,
great.
Becky. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much for the opportunity. Thanks. We'll see
Thank
you.
you very much.
All right, you have to come.
Okay. On to agenda item number 7. Guys are quick. Okay.
So, Mr. Chair, agenda items 7 and 8, they somewhat overlap, but they're taken as two separate agenda items.
There's a lot of, seemed like there was a lot of duplicate paperwork, is it for the same thing?
It's, yeah, essentially. It's a process reason.
Okay, before we go there were 3 dates: delivery, use, and return. Is that so?
Yes.
That includes, like, they have to put back in stock? That's simply what that is?
Correct.
Okay.
Return it back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a lot of those with
Yeah.
one-day events.
We used to have
But this is the first one I've seen where those dates were specifically
Yeah, no, I used to significantly do that, quite a few with the old Clockworks Cafe, when next time we do a one-day event for, a nonprofit or something, they'd have that window, the same idea.
Okay, all right, so number 7 is road race request for special permit, Jingle All the Way, Great Hill Foundation, and it's the motion is to move to accept and approve the request for a fundraiser road race to start and end at 5 Clocktower Place, Maynard, the New England, Maine, the Great Hill Foundation, on December 12th, 2015 at 10 a.m. Any seconds?
Second.
Okay, and just comments and discussion.
Can you tell us a little bit about the plan, what the plan is? I assume it's a road race.
Yep,
What the route might be, and we'll go from there.
Sure. So my name's Caitlin Montana. I'm here with
Welcome.
the Greg Hill Foundation, and we are looking to do a 5K road race. It would start at 10 a.m. in the parking lot and end right in the parking lot as well. We've worked with the police chief to come up with a route. I have a copy of it here, but basically our plan is to stay off the major roads and come up with a route that just has minimal impact on the local traffic. To let people know that this is happening in their neighborhoods, we'll also do door tags to the roads that will be affected by the road closure.
Mr. Chair, if I could just add to that discussion that we had, specifically those door tags would be in the heavier residential populated areas like Summerhill Glen, Thompson Street, some of those areas that the actual, not every place, we go up Main Street, et cetera, but exactly correct, they'll work those out.
Kevin, are you familiar with the route? Can you sort of give us a...
I am, yeah, actually, the chief and I have driven it a couple times. We spoke about it prior to
For the 5K?
prior to meeting with Caitlin, and as well as I sat in on the meeting with Caitlin. So I don't know if the chief wants to kind of run through it, but
the goal is to start in the parking lot at Clock Tower. So just going out of the parking lot, basically going around Clock Tower, so taking left out of the lot, starting on Sudbury, taking the first left, up Thompson, down Walnut, onto Main Street, and then run Main Street all the way up to Mill, and then taking a right on Mill Street, and then up Summerhill, all the way to Summer Street, and kind of back to Clock Tower, back to Sudbury.
Okay.
So
you sort of go past the starting line again and then come looping around?
Yeah, and part of it was they have carolers on the route.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. That's
kind of figure eight, so they wanted to stay on it twice. So that was
very nice.
Incorporated Main Street, like two sections. So myself and Lieutenant Noble drove around trying to figure it all out, and it seemed like the best and the easiest route, lowest impact, and to get started and ending on, in the parking lot.
Yeah.
But it seems pretty low key. We should be okay. They had they expect around 400 runners, so that was part of it too. So should be a good group.
fortunately, the parking lot is so large that you can adjust the starting line to get that 3.1. You have a lot of flexibility.
The other follow-up that I would have, did we put both motions on the table, the liquor license too? I just wanted to ask about, no? So I'll ask the liquor license when that comes later.
Okay. All right. Tim, any questions? Terrence?
No.
Okay.
Excited.
Jason, any questions?
Not at this time.
Okay, so I'll just reread the motion for everybody's interest, and then we'll vote. Move to accept and approve the request for a fundraiser road race to start and end at 5 Clock Tower Place, Maynard, the New England, Maine. The Greg Hill Foundation on December 12th, 2015 at 10 a.m. All those in favor?
You have a second on that?
Terrence did it. We did that backwards. He did it first. The next one we're going to do in order. Okay, so we'll do the discussion piece on the one-day liquor license. And you guys already told us what you're going to do.
So, Mr. Chair, Ashley Hanson, the Operations Director for Whole House Group, is here to speak to that piece, but that'll explain why there's that overlap.
Okay.
There's a note in the file, the packet as well, with regards to the location, et cetera, what they're proposing, so.
Your turn.
So I'm Ashley. I work with Whole House Group, and so we operate Amory Maynard's Cafe. And so we're looking to host the runners at the cafe space after the race, and we put on a buffet, and we'll have, looking to have liquor available, beer, wine, and liquor for purchase
Okay.
after the race.
All right. Jason, any questions regarding the liquor license portion?
Is that part of the event open to all ages?
It is.
Okay, so I assume there'll be ID checks at point of purchase?
Yeah, we also have 29 Sudbury Restaurant, so I'll be bringing tips trained staff over to the cafe to work that day.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
just one question, and maybe it's for Caitlin. As we talked about the runners, similar to the Boys Club race, where they got one ticket for one drink for the runners. So I'm not sure if that plan is still in place.
So typically what we would normally do in that case is if we have a liquor sponsor and they would like to donate a beer, the runners would get a ticket when they check in that they would redeem then at the restaurant.
Okay. Is the function open to people that don't run in the race?
We wouldn't turn anyone away if they wanted to come and check it out, so.
We do have some families and friends that come in to support, and they're welcome as well.
Okay, just check. Yes, Chief?
What are you expecting for people at that location?
So I know we talked about 400 runners, but in the past, we've had, staying for the after portion, maybe 100 people that will hang out and partake in the festivities, so.
Okay.
Does that require a detail, Chief, or anything like that, or?
Honestly, there'll be everybody from the race. The officers there'll be 10 officers there, so.
Okay.
There'll be some people down at the start that will stick around anyway.
Okay.
So I would say specific detail.
Okay. David, any questions?
Yeah, my only quick question is, are you planning entertainment at the time, when afterwards? And if so, does that require an additional, if there's a band or a DJ or anything, does that require additional license from the town, Kevin?
Yeah, I don't think we didn't issue any type of entertainment license to, so yeah, if they were to go that direction, we would require that.
At this point, do you plan on having entertainment?
Yes, in the past, we've done just an acoustic play or just a single person, so that's definitely something that we'd like to
Check
pursue.
in with Kevin.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can add that, if that's a direction that you guys are interested in going. The big piece for them is they want, obviously wanted to get it on early so they could start doing the advertising and marketing for the race, so if there's something else that's needed, such as that, we need to talk.
One other follow-up that I should have asked regarding the race. We have another 5K in town, but they have walkers too. Is this open to walkers and runners, or is it just?
Absolutely.
It is, and
Yep.
for full 5K for the walkers as well?
Yep.
That might take a couple hours.
We actually have a large group. One of our beneficiaries puts together a large walking group, and it usually takes them just about an hour.
I won't be joining them.
How'd you like, David?
What is it?
So, Mr. Chair, can I ask a question?
Sure you can.
Originally I was talking about potentially using the Building 5 space before it became the Amory Maynard Cafe space. What's the logistics, because you're going to end in the parking lot, and I've been in the building 1,000 times, and I could barely find the cafeteria, but never mind trying to direct somebody. So what's the logistics for getting the guests from the parking lot of Building 5 over to the cafe? How's that planned?
We have all types of A-frame signs and signs that we can put on easels directing people to the right place.
Okay. A tough location. Right now, I think that's going to change, but the way the current finding of that is tough. Thanks.
Anybody else? Any other comments? The board?
Yeah, so it's going to be inside the festivities afterwards, not outside?
Yes.
And we talk about advertising. Are we talking about doing a blast out to the town as well? Are you trying to encourage people to come out and watch the race as well and partake? Or is it simply, to raise money for the Great Hill Foundation? Or are you trying to include the town being part of it as well?
Absolutely, we'd love the town to be part of it. Actually, that's part of the appeal, is we like Main Street and the feeling of that. So everybody runs in costumes and gets dressed up, so it's a great activity for people just to watch.
Great, that's the only question I have.
Anybody else? Any more questions?
It's important just to note, too, that the last, prior 2 years, the race has been held in Sudbury. This year, they were looking to relocate the race here to Maynard.
Thank you.
Okay, so I make a motion to move and accept and approve the request for a one-day all alcohol license at Amory Maynard Cafe at 8 Clock Tower Place, Millen, Maine, after the road race event for Gray Hill Foundation, December 12th, 2015. License to pick up alcohol on December 11th, to sell on December 12th, and to return on Monday, December 14th. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Gavin. We've done the comments and the discussion. Any further comments? All those in favor? Thank you. Thanks and good luck.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. Talk
Thanks.
soon.
For coming.
Thanks.
Okay, so this is where we're jumping out of order. We have a CDBG request from a homeowner, and it's onto that piece of the discussion.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'll ask Andrew to speak to this agenda item, more detail.
Mr. Ted Lowney's just come to the front of the room. If there's any questions that the board has after I provide a summary, it'll be best addressed by the homeowner.
Okay, what was it again? What was his name?
Ted Lowney.
Ted? Okay, I just couldn't hear you. Okay.
Sorry.
So Mr. Lowney's lived in town for many years and at 6 Hazelwood. And in 2002, he was approved for a community development block grant, the acronym that you have in your packet there, CDBG, for work on his house. There were, I believe, 4 different projects totaling $24,600. Those projects, or that money came from the federal community development block grant program. There's no real money that the town has spent on this, but there's a 20-year mortgage on the property that the town holds a lien on. And if the homeowner then sells the property in that 20-year period, they're obligated to pay back the mortgage, the $24,600. The way these liens are structured, the last 5 years of that mortgage prorates down at 20% per year. Right now, Mr. Lowney's in year 13 of this process, so if he sold the house today, he would have to pay back 100% of the $24,600. A couple of years from now, it would be 80%, and then down to 0 after 20 years. So what's happened is most of that money, or not most of it, but more than 50% of it, I looked it up just a moment ago, $14,200 of the $24,600 was for a new roof on his property. Now, most of us know that a roof's going to be good for 20 or 30 years, and if you're going to have a 20-year mortgage on it, you would hope that it would last at least 20. His roof failed about a year or 2 ago. Between 2002 and a year or 2 ago, there were problems with the roof, but when it completely failed and he had a new roofer come in and take a look at it, the roofer said, all they did was reshingle your roof. All the boards and so on, all the things that you do when you replace a roof weren't really done. The work basically wasn't done as expected, and the shingles themselves aren't going to last 35 years on an underlayment that isn't quality. So in any case, Mr. Lowney then replaced his roof out of necessity. Now, he's not looking for the town to pay for that roof, but he is looking for relief on the lien because what he's obligated to pay back was never really provided to him. So if he chose to sell the house today, he's asking for a relief of $14,200 of that mortgage instead of having to pay the full amount. And then subsequently, if he sold, say, in year 18, he would only have to pay back 40% of the balance instead of the entire amount. So the request is to provide a waiver on the lien of $14,200, leaving the obligation on the remaining $10,400 in place. So yeah, that's the long and short of the summary. I will tell the board that after meeting with Mr. Lowney, pulling out his CDBG file, they're all about this big. His is a little bigger than most. But going through it, I was able to substantiate the information that he had already provided me, that there were problems from the get-go, that there was a rebidding process because things weren't done properly the first time, that there's all sorts of information both in his file and elsewhere substantiating that there were problems with some of the vendors doing the work. These were state-appointed vendors. The process wasn't as independent, where the town had a lot of control over it, as we might hope to. We were obligated to hire certain vendors within a process. In any case, in substantiating most of what he told me, I feel comfortable recommending that the board consider his request. That it is, to the best we can do with the paperwork we have, we can sort of agree that the roof was very likely built to a substandard measure.
Any questions? Go ahead, David.
I do. Andrew, I believe you said there had been, back in 2002, 4 of these grants given out. Is that accurate?
So, excuse me, Mr. Lowney's CDBG allotment was for 4 different projects on his home.
Oh, okay.
It's only the roof that we're requesting a waiver on.
How many, I guess the real question I have is how many of these loans are out there today?
I can get you the exact number, but it's approximately 65 to 70. We just did a real thorough analysis of them over the summer. I think the total was about 84, but some people have sold their properties since they got the grants, so the actual number now is in the high 60s. We sold one this summer, for instance, that was only about 10 years old, and we were given the full amount of the mortgage back when that property was sold. So that's an ongoing thing. All of these things will expire within about a decade. I think the youngest ones are about 11 years old right now.
So I guess my question or comment is, while I certainly empathize with the situation that the gentleman has encountered, I'm wondering what the unintended consequences are if we start, opening up the door to reimbursing and, to giving waivers. So my question for Kevin is, you sent us a memo that said the board has done this before. My recollection is that we heard one complaint in the past that we rejected, but I don't know how many others have happened. So I'm asking how many times it's been done and,
Yeah, I can look that up as well.
We can look that up. I know this,
It's usually hardship, like a foreclosure on the property, the person's been unemployed, something like that, and the board's granted a waiver.
out of those 85 or so, there's a history of a few. There's also, particularly with this one, which I mentioned in that response, was that this one actually has a history, documented history. This project, all of our CDBG was managed out of Boston, as well as our community planner that was here for 20-plus years, Carolyn Britt. They kept meticulous detail, as did the homeowner, with regards to the status of the property and the issues that were found along the way. So, the documentation is there to support exactly what the homeowner, Ms. Alani, is stating. Oftentimes, that is not the case, and it's somewhat subjective whether or not, it becomes to whether or not he's telling the truth or what have you. But we do have a documented history that substantiates what his claim is.
For example, he had a roof leak shortly after, let's say within a year or so, corresponded with the town about that, and it's in the record. The first indication that maybe there was a problem with the roof, a lack of inspection taking place from the town side on the project. It's all substantiated in here, the back and forth of appointments and a lack of signatures on the town's part, or inspector saying it's done, but no signature on the page, things like that.
Jason?
You done with your question?
Yeah.
All right.
Jason, anything?
Yeah, I have a few. Some of them are probably directed to Andrew. What is so help me out with this. This was done through the CDBG program. So federal money was directed through the Commonwealth to individual property owners?
Well, to contractors.
To
If Mr. Lowney wasn't given any money, the projects on his home were paid for from this fund.
Based on that.
The money that comes back to us, like the house that was sold this summer, that money goes back into our CDBG account, and we're able to re-spend that money on community development programs. It's the town's money at this point. There's an accounting process we have to go through with the state in order to then free that money up to be spent, but it doesn't go back to the federal government. It was a grant. It's a block grant from the federal government. So now that money is ours to spend.
So it is ours, but I guess explain to me then how is it ours?
So
If it's tied up in projects, and then it's a lien.
So the lien is ours, right?
Okay.
So we have a right to that money with that lien. When a home was sold this summer that had not yet gone through the expiration of the lien, we received $21,000. That money goes back into the CDBG grant program. If we want to issue another thing for lead paint abatement and offer it out as grant under the same types of terms, it's not that federal program. We'd have to write up our own rules about it, but we could do it that way. We could use it for downtown enhancement funds. Anything that would qualify as community development, we could justify with it.
We've funded the Boys and Girls Club grants out of the same funds. So there's a running balance that has been in there since the account is set up. And I think, as we said, the last 6 months, we've spent a lot of time running the history of this, communication with the office in Boston, et cetera, to make sure the financials of it are in check. But yeah, as long as it's within the, some of the old stuff would have been used within the guidelines of what the funds were from. But in this case, as Andrew said, what's been recent that you may recall would be like the Boys and Girls Club grants that we issued for the 3-year term. That's where that funds came from.
So that was separate monies that was given to the town? I guess I'm seeing a disconnect here, and I'm just trying to piece it together.
The CDBG wasn't a one-time thing. So it's a history of years of receiving funding. The last time we actually received funding was
2005. It actually ran through 2007, but it was a 2005 program.
2005, but there's history of various payments that were, different programs that were funded through the CDBG.
Going back to the 1980s.
Yeah.
So I think there were 6 CDBG programs in Maynard over about a 20-year period.
Correct.
At one point, we had almost a $500,000 balance in the account. Back in the 80s and 90s, lots of houses were bought and sold, and people paid the money back. The federal government isn't looking for it. DHCD isn't looking for it in Boston. They just want to know, they audit it, and they want to verify that it's being spent appropriately when it's being spent.
Okay, and you're bridging where I was going here. If this is money that's going directly to these vendors, whether contractors or whatever you want to call them, who are doing work, the only way the town's seeing cash out of this is if someone sells the house.
In less than 20 years.
Within the next 10 years, give or take, based on what you said, the cash value of all these improvements from the community block development grants will be effectively gone.
Right, they'll have amortized out.
Okay.
Okay, we may still have a balance in the account at that point, like if we don't spend any more.
Right, because of folks who have sold previous to this,
Right.
but are putting money, or basically returning money back to the town.
Exactly.
Okay. In regards to how this was overseen, the town had what responsibility in the oversight of these repairs, these projects being carried out?
Sure. As you may know, I wasn't here then. I was a young boy back in 2005.
I know you were still alive. So on your mom's skirt, yes.
Yeah, having said that, it seemed like there was poor oversight in the case of Mr. Lowney's property. I don't want to imply that there was no oversight. I really don't know. But knowing that about 85 of these were given out between 2003 and 2005, there was an awful lot going on in terms of hiring contractors and approving these projects. and we had a contract planner, wasn't even a full-time employee. So I don't know what was going on, but I think we would be very hard-pressed to manage that volume of projects effectively without several full-time staffers.
It's
So-
my understanding, too, that we actually had a representative from Boston that was in Maynard that held an office and, you know, at least hours to manage. They were a project manager for us from Boston. Is that, I know Becky can speak a little to it, probably.
There's names in this folder I've never heard of before, so.
Yeah, and a lot of those were
Full-time employees.
From the Boston, from the program that were managing it.
So given
And they're
that
not
level
part-time
of oversight and that level of, that
Yeah,
volume
they were
of projects,
part-time.
it's not a surprise to me that some of them may have been poorly managed.
Okay,
But it's not something I think is endemic to the way the town manages projects. I think it was very specifically of throwing a lot of money at a lot of projects very quickly
Town, really.
and
It
expecting it to
wasn't
all
all
work
the
out.
town that managed it.
I think it was more than.
well, and let me clarify, I'm not looking to blame the people who were in the town
Sure.
before. We don't know what the circumstance was. I'm simply asking, under this program, who is the responsible party to manage these projects? Now, kind of tell me that, so somebody from
State.
the state came out to do that.
Yeah, there's a local liaison, which was Carolyn, but there was really a program manager from the state that was managing it.
And there was a building inspector whose name's in here, Don somebody or other.
Prior to-
I don't know if he was a town employee or a contractor. There's at least 2 or 3 other names, which may have been these state people. I guess if you're asking, like, whose job was it to make sure it was done right, I would say it was probably a joint effort
Okay.
between the state and the town.
80/20.
Okay. And I guess just to follow on to that, how was this, I guess, trying to figure out the right way to, I guess, phrase it, you know, in this particular case, we're looking at, I'd say poor execution, poor materials. Was there I guess I'll use my term for it, was there a set of specifications that came along with this that said this is what was supposed to be put in?
Yeah, the roofing work in particular was bid and rebid, and the specifications are pretty explicit about what was expected. The company that was hired was the low bid recipient, which was part of the CDBG grant program requirements. Mr. Lowney also documented problems with some of the other work, but they were lower value, they were corrected in some way or another, or they're no longer an issue. You know, the complete roof failure and replacement is a big issue that, you know, comparatively. But I would say overall, shoddy workmanship, poor quality materials, or just work wasn't done.
Okay.
You know, if the underlayment wasn't replaced and new shingles were put on, you wouldn't know unless you inspected it from the inside. And it's not clear that that ever happened, the inside inspection.
Okay. I guess then, just one more question, and that would be for Mr. Lowney.
Yes.
Andrew's pointed out several times that you actually very well documented some of these issues, including back when they occurred.
Yes.
At that time when they occurred, what was the process to seek either remediation or
It was
repair?
well, the problems ongoing during the process, you know, waiting for people and looking at the work that they're doing, et cetera. It was a liaison here, it's in my notes. But there was also a person who oversaw the bid process and was the one who would be the contact to check on what the contractors were doing. And that person was pretty much unavailable. And there was telephone, you know, can you come and look at this? They're going to be here this date. And it was just repeatedly broken appointments and never any inspection by the guy. So he was there during the bid process,
showing the contractors what needed to be done, et cetera. And after that, pretty much a missing person. And of course, as the homeowner, I wasn't paying anybody. The money is all coming here, so just very little leverage.
Okay, thank you.
Tim, questions?
From what I've heard, this is all new to me, and thank you, Andrew, for the summary and the overview. I agree that the facts kind of speak for themselves. I know we're all kind of new to this situation since it started. Yeah, other than that, Mr. Lowney, do you have any plans to, in the near future, do you see yourself staying in Maynard long enough for this?
They'll be taking me out of that house feet first. Hopefully not soon.
Let's not go there. Okay, Terrence, any questions for anyone, Mr. Lowney?
Yeah, quick questions, kind of follow up to that. So I'm just, you don't have any plans to sell the house in the immediate future?
I do not.
So what's the, perhaps it's something just not clicking with me, so what's the need to remove the lien if we're not going anyplace from the residence?
I took out an equity loan to pay for the new roof, and so now I'm on the hook at the same time, for the equity loan, and I've got that the lien hanging over my head, if I ever do, or my heirs sell the house.
So is the lien preventing you from doing something right now, or is this, we talking about removing the lien for a future? That's what I'm trying to grasp here.
It's not stopping me from doing anything right now.
Okay.
But as I say, I had to get an equity loan on the house, so there's an additional, lien on the house now for the equity loan.
You all know how quickly things change. If Mr. Lowney intends to stay in that home for the remainder of his long-lived days, that's terrific. But 2 years from now, he could be forced to sell it for one reason or another, and he would be on the hook for both of those liens, essentially for one quality roof.
Thanks. Like, you're making my point, so that's, and regardless of whether we say we're staying there, so the issue is the lien.
The lien's there for 7 more years.
All right, so your flexibility is pretty limited in this case, but something does happen.
Yes.
All right, so, all right, no, that's, the other question is really about, do we know who the business is? They probably are out of business by this time, or change entities, and, what is the state's role in this? Like, if there had to be some sort of grievances board for this program, for someone to go back to the state, does the state have any idea this is all went on, 10 years later? Is it completely off their radar? Do they have no culpability in this, or?
Yeah, nobody wants us to get into the newspapers, so you don't hear about this kind of stuff, but there's lots of problems with these programs in every state and in every community that had these programs. As I was saying about Maynard's, doing 70 or 80 of these with part-time staff over a 3-year period, you're bound to have, issues, fly-by-night companies, all that kind of stuff were the biggest issues that they saw. In the 80s and 90s, it was even worse because there was a big housing boom going on nationwide. So, again, I don't know specifically about Maynard, but these issues were not unusual. Ideal Property Maintenance Corporation was the bad roofer. Don't even know if they're still in business.
He subbed it.
There you go.
Not ideal.
I don't even know who put the roof on, so.
So, last question is, so this program is not in effect anymore, you said a couple times, right?
Yeah, the federal government brings these programs up, every generation because it's a good use of federal funds that they want to distribute, and they don't want to create another bureaucracy, so they push these block grants out to the state. We see it in all different types of things. Department of Transportation does it, other federal agencies. This one is right now, on hiatus.
All right, so are there similar projects from the state or other funding? My point is so it sounds like there was some oversight missed on this project, regardless of who did it, but I know from our side, we have a building commissioner, we have, a municipal department that hands out permits and inspects work and stuff, so for similar type programs going forward, how are we sure that that's being taken care of? Do we have the scalability within our own team to be able to handle what's going on right now?
So we now have a full-time planner. I believe we did not have a full-time building commissioner back then. I'm not positive, but we do have one now. We also have a bank account of CDBG money if the federal government came along and offered us another, $20 million grant program to loan this money out, or whatever the number would be, we could use some of the existing money we have to hire an administrator for it.
So we're in a better spot going forward.
Yeah, I think overall, this program was big and unique, and is not comparable to other things, but particularly other state grants that we receive. It's managed in-house exclusively. We go out and procure. Typically, it's a contract that's signed. We go out, we actually expend the funds and then get reimbursed. This program is very unique, and as I said, it hasn't been funded since 2005.
Thank you.
I would just add that some of the larger government-funded programs since then have come with outrageous amounts of oversight that
Correct.
effectively made them almost not particularly palatable. But
Fair.
Can I ask one quick follow-up that perhaps you'll know the answer to, but I would imagine you would? What was the qualifications for the grant? Was it a means test? Was it?
Yes.
It was means tested. Because my one concern would be for the person in Maynard at the same time that had the same job done on their roof, that hired the same contractor, but didn't have this grant, and they go out and they don't have the relief given to them because they either didn't qualify or they didn't know about the program or whatever. How do we say sorry to them, but okay for you?
They would have had more leverage in dealing with the contractor, withholding payment, whatever.
They had a say in who
They
did
would
the
have been in
work.
charge of the relationship.
Mr. Lowney didn't choose Ideal. The town
I
did.
don't think it's a fair question to ask Mr. Lowney, but it's, at this point, because it's 2002, so it's 9 or 10 years ago, how does he know when anybody else had a roof done or anything like that? But anyways, so I have a couple of questions. The first thing is the one statement that the last one we had with these was Patty Lane, and that was a death in the family. So these don't come back very often, I don't think.
Correct. Yeah.
So that's the first one. The second point, to David's earlier point, about do we open the door to a bunch of different things. I don't see that happening because we're not opening any door. We're addressing one particular party's well-documented case. And if the event that somebody thinks that opens a door for them, I think if we don't shut that door very quickly, if it's not well-documented, it's not appropriate, that's on us, not the other people that might have questions. And those are my only two comments about
The Patty
this
Lane was
item.
not a request for a waiver.
No,
They paid it
I
full.
understand the money came back to the town, but it wasn't a request for a loan or anything. It was,
Yeah.
the request for the money
Go
came
back
back was
several years.
they had to sell the home because of a death in the family.
No,
Yes.
no, I'm sorry, I see what you're saying. The house was sold subsequent to
And the
a death in
town
the
paid
family.
back what
Whether
was
they had to or not, that was their personal business.
Yeah.
But the requests for waivers that have come before the board in the past are for a variety of reasons, usually financial hardship.
Yeah, so that money came to the town because of somebody's passing, not
But
because.
the family could have
anybody
chosen to
requested
hold on to the
yeah.
mortgage.
Yeah,
They made that choice to sell. I understand what you're saying, but it's,
Yeah, but my point was that that's more likely to be the scenario than someone's just up and selling the house and trying to get out from under this program. That type of thing, that's just.
that's right. And in looking through a lot of these files, there's some other indicators of poor workmanship or complaints about the work. Many of them are just perfectly fine, and clearly we're not getting, or didn't get dozens and dozens of these types of requests over the years. So my sense is that sort of reinforces Mr. Lowney's issue, that he did document the problem from early on, and we have that record.
Okay.
One more quick follow-up. If you mentioned earlier that obviously the portion that we're working on here is the roof. There were 3 other aspects of the job, but those still remain as part of the lien that you would be required to pay back?
Yes.
Strictly the roofs that we're talking about? Okay, thank you.
The only other item I have is that there is no motion on the agenda report.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know what to
That was the
write.
motion you were looking for.
Okay, so I guess I'll make one up. Do you have one?
If you're interested in granting the waiver, it would be in the amount of $14,200.
Okay. Let's see. Mr. Lowney, what's your address?
6 Hazelwood Road.
Okay. So we have it, kind of try and make it official for you. 6 Hayden, okay.
Mr. Chairman, the CDBG grant number is 2003-00-60.
Okay, that's on here somewhere. Okay. All right, I make a motion that we release the lien on the property at 62 Hazelwood Road. 6 Hazelwood Road, Maynard, Massachusetts, under the CDBG number 2003-0060 in the amount of $14,000.
$14,200.
$14,200, okay. So you want me to do it, I'll start over.
Can make it for as much as you want.
I'll start over, okay? A lot of corrections in that one. Okay, so I make a motion that we release the lien on the property at 6 Hazelwood Road, Maynard, Massachusetts, under CDBG grant number 2003-0060 in the amount of $14,200. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. And thank you for keeping good records.
Yes, thank you for that.
Sometimes we fail in the keeping good records department.
Someone listen to
That's my thing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we're back in order, and we're on number 9, winter parking ban, and Chief DeBoer.
Yeah, so this is, as you know, the annual sort of formality vote of the winter parking ban, but this year we also wanted to have the chief have a little bit more discussion with regards to the winter parking ban this year.
Okay.
First, just is there a motion for the dates? For the
Yeah, do we want to,
ban?
did you want to have a discussion first, or we want to just move it? I don't think that's going to change, right?
This one,
No, that one's the
I
same.
asked for the discussion first, and then the motion after, so. And it's actually the discussion for both, and then the two motions, so we'll talk about them both, and then we'll do the two motions in order.
Both being the winter parking ban and the
Winter
holiday
parking ban, and then there's
holiday parking.
holiday parking meters.
Right. And that's a standard annual parking, I guess, lack of enforcement for the holiday season. I guess the discussion primarily is during storm time, the winter parking ban on municipal streets is, the dates that we have set forth, and they're clearly marked on almost every entrance to town. There's 2 locations that we need to put signs up. Summer Street coming into town, I couldn't find a sign, and also on Great Road, coming in from Sudbury, there's no sign. Everywhere else, there's a big sign, notifying residents about the winter parking ban, and the dates are correct, because we modified them a few years ago. So that, as part of the program, what we'll do is we issue warnings for about the first 2 weeks. So starting December 1st, anybody parking on town streets, we'll put a warning notice on their windshield, just to remind everybody, and we'll do the best we can with social media and the website and the display board, just notifying everybody that the parking ban is in effect. The issue we run into is snow removal and the municipal lots. And then it's been the last few years since the parking deck was gone, where the residents that need to park down there go. And I think that's more of either a bigger discussion or more direction from the board as far as how we want to handle that. Because we seem to get into that quandary last year was pretty tough. So that's kind of what Andrew and I had, we spent quite a bit of time talking about, just trying to come up with some type of resolution for it, some guidance for us. But those are kind of the big picture, what we'd like to talk about. There's no issue with the parking ban, and I think most of the residents have no issue with it. They're in compliance. We don't have a lot of problems with that. But it is when the snow removal time and where there's a lot of people who don't have driveways, what we do, because they were parking downtown. And there were some apartments downtown that we ran into some issues with.
Yeah, I think it was a bigger issue for the downtown apartments when the parking deck was there, particularly because they would park under the parking deck and be out of the snow, and it wasn't enforced as far as overnight parking. But yeah, it has become a bigger issue with the mixed use and the parking needs from the residential side of things.
Okay, so the parking deck wasn't there last year. What did we do? I don't remember what we did, if anything. I don't think we made a recommendation.
Yeah, a couple of them, a couple of the ones that stand out were essentially forced to move. They left town because there was no provision for them. Particularly the property above Halfway Cafe. It couldn't work without them to have a vehicle and vehicle access, so they actually relocated and moved out of town. Aside from that, I don't think there was. This is sort of I think a bigger conversation as we look into recapturing the spaces from Railroad Street with the rail trail coming in. Where are those folks going? The loss of parking spaces related to Florida Court. The folks that are parking there and have been since the mid '80s. I think that conversation.
Right. And I understand some of the older buildings, I think we talked about this last year a little bit, that some of the older buildings in town just, preceded a need for parking spaces in some sense. But, I guess the concern becomes, people are going to migrate back to River Street because, some people are going to feel entitled to that lot because, quote unquote, we own it. Being the people, the citizens of Maynard type thing, since we bought it. Well, how do we get around it? Do we go to Walgreens? How many spaces do they have there? Can we, can we broker a deal between those people that want to park there and give them a sticker or something, or where else?
The real issue is snow removal time. I mean, that's when we really run into a problem, and it's, it's not a lot. Last year it was a lot. Hopefully it won't be much this year, but it's, that's where we run into an issue. We do everything we can to get a hold of the owner of the vehicle so we don't have to tow it, but, occasionally we do. And, we're just trying to give some direction to people if we get asked, because we do get asked, well, where can I park? And we just don't have any spaces for them.
There's room at the golf course, and I'm not being funny, there is room up there, but if we figure out a system how to get people back to their apartments and their homes. No, but if you can figure out a way to, if you want to park your car, it's kind of snow, you want to park your car in that particular lot, use the council on aging buses that sit there all night and drive people back to, downtown area, and maybe it's a solution, maybe it's not, but it's the only spot in town where there's parking that's not affected by traffic.
Andrew and I sat early this week, we had
Tim and I as well, just
part
separate.
one of the parking subcommittee, and then Selectman Egan sat in the next night with Andrew. So there's definitely, it's a wider conversation we have to have because it affects a number of areas, but with regards to the winter parking, I mean, something I think we should seriously think about is clearing out the municipal lot downtown, first and foremost, during the snow emergency, and letting the townspeople use it if they need to, have a place to park their cars. We have a very, very small area for parking here. We know that consistently. So if the people around there don't have, regardless of whether they predate, the buildings predate parking, I mean, the same tenants aren't there from 50 years ago, so they had opportunity to go find parking for the property, and they chose not to, for whatever reason. We chose not to put that as a bylaw, to have parking associated with all these apartments. But the reality is, these folks need a place to park, right? So, I mean, the winter parking ban, I understand, you have to move cars up the road in order to plow the streets. That's a no-brainer. We have small roads anyways. But if we don't give some central location that people know they can depend on with us, I mean, who's going to park downtown, in the middle of a snowstorm anyways? No one's going to the businesses, no one's open up. So, I mean, there's a municipal lot. There's an opportunity for us to think about doing things a little bit differently that way. So.
Yeah, Not to interrupt, just to add to that, I mean, I would have issues with liability and maintaining that parking lot to a safe condition when the cars are no longer there and there's no overnight parking. We're able to, on every pass, clean the lot, sand it, and address it. When the vehicles stay overnight and they're not getting moved, and the liability of them just parking there overnight and, trudging through the snow, I don't know. I agree with you on the residential parking on some of the places that have been in existence, like on Main Street and some of that, but I think to some degree there's been opportunities where property owners have also had the same availability to provide for parking and purchase parking, as we did.
There's no easy solution here, but, I think we gotta think of things differently if we're gonna.
Yeah.
The real problem is, obviously this winter will be a problem, but the real problem comes next, the next winter or two, when you lose all those other spaces to the trail, to the rail trail. Then what do you do?
Well, you're not letting them park there now, so they're not going to lose anything.
Where?
If people can't park in the municipal lot now.
I'm not talking about the municipal lot, I'm talking about the number of spaces that we're gonna lose that are being parked in right now tonight.
Behind the post office.
At Florida Court.
And parked all year, and,
That's a real issue, that particular lot.
behind the post office right on through. I mean, we were adding, I don't know how many cars and people to the problem, but I'm glad you two guys are on the committee, but it still doesn't alleviate the problem, and it's gonna be a problem this winter that is a thing. I don't, where do you go? There's nowhere really to go in town. There's no open lots or empty lots, some towns have an empty Stop and Shop or a store that's closed or something, and there's a place to go. We don't have that.
Right.
We only have 2 or 3 places with more than 10 or 15 spaces.
And what happens, I think, if they don't move their cars fast enough either. So if they're there and, we get a foot of snow, 3 days later, the car's still there because either it's buried in because the plows push and they can't get it out. And so then it stays there for a while. And then I think DPW has a problem of always trying to get back and clean it up. So there's some residual stuff with big storm cleanup.
No, absolutely.
With that, so,
Yeah.
that's why we needed to raise the issue, to, I guess, start thinking about it, to
Well, we only have.
come up with something.
This is New England, we might only have a few weeks to decide.
Right.
People are cheering on the snow Sunday morning for some foolish reason, but.
It is a limited amount of cars. I mean, it's not, it's not a real big problem, but there is noticeable vehicles that
Although
have that
this
issue.
year, as we touched upon at a previous meeting, many people, especially down the River Street area, used to be able to park up in the lot that was on the Walnut Street, the parking lot for
Right.
Mill and Main.
Right.
And apparently Mill and Main has told them no. So that group of cars, which was a substantive number from what I can remember, seeing cars in there during winter storm, those people are going to be looking for places. I have a question. It probably isn't practical, because Terrence touched upon the fact that, our roads are narrow as they are anyway, and one plow through and suddenly they're half a car big instead of a full car. Some communities, typically cities, have snow emergency situations as opposed to winter snow parking bans. So people are able to park on the street in their quote-unquote normal spot unless the parking ban is put in place. Last winter, it would never have worked because of the mounds and huge amounts of snow. But I'm wondering if that's an alternative to have, the problem is the narrow aspect of our streets. Try go down River Street now, and it's narrow. Try doing that with 3 inches, closing a foot out, and it's even more narrow. Just trying to figure out ways that people might be able to stay where they are, except when it's a snow emergency and we have to remove the snow.
Yeah, I'll let the chief respond to that, but I think that's a difficult thing when we set December 1 to March 15th.
Yeah, I got you.
I like the idea, because I think if you look back last year, there could have been 6 weeks beyond December 1 that folks could have been parking.
Yeah.
The reality is, we didn't get any real snow until January. Everybody feels that it was a torrential winter, but the winter really didn't start until January.
26th.
I mean, we were, December saying, hey, we're going to have a mild, great winter, in late December, early January. and there wouldn't have been any issue with folks parking there at that time. So it's tough to gauge. I mean, it snowed this weekend, so.
Yeah.
The bigger issue with that, I think I think there was a discussion about that. It's really the notice to get the message out to everybody to say, all right, from today forward, you can't park, and that's where we run into problems. So I think it was just easier to pick a date as late as we could and stick to it. I'm open to anything. I mean, whatever would work. It's just a limited resource as far as covered parking to get them off the streets so that the plows can do their work.
What have you seen in, like, your community in Shrewsbury? What are they?
They actually have a year-round parking ban on all streets, which is kind of odd in the summertime, but it was pretty heavily enforced. So, they didn't, and there were a lot of residents that didn't have driveways, a lot of, like, similar small neighborhoods where, real old ones, like around the lake and things, and they just would park on their lawn or whatever. It was odd, but it was a year-round parking ban there. And then most places do what you say. I think you either alternate sides of the street you park on in, like, the city, or, they allow it up to a certain period. But I think it's that public notice aspect that they're pretty good at.
Boston has the advantage.
Right.
They can get it out over mass media, but I
Because,
get it.
we could go all winter, really, and not need anybody to stay off the streets either. I mean, it might not have enough snow type of thing we've had years, so it could be anything, so.
That can be a dangerous strategy.
Right.
I'd like to suggest that we leave the signage with the municipal lot ban in place until the parking subcommittee can make a recommendation, having looked at and considered all these issues that have been brought up tonight, as well as some others. There are lots of communities managing this in one way or another. It's not like there's only one way to do it. It's whatever the community has for resources and opportunity that brings forth the correct solution. If we lift the ban, we might have to change all those signs. And then the subcommittee might decide, it should be this way. And then maybe we would have left the signs the way they were. And we could probably change the signs quickly with some sort of a decal to cover up that thing with the municipal ban, the municipal lot ban, relatively quickly if we make the decision, say, a month from now. Get the word out through the robocall that we can do those sorts of things.
Kevin, can you ask, just as someone mentioned it sitting here, I'm not sure who mentioned it, but be interested to see what the DPW's opinion is if we offered the opportunity to park, odd or even side parking at night for those people who need it, and then, does that make, you've got 2/3 of the street minimally clear, and as part of that whole thing, these people realize that, that you only got a certain number of time, you have to move the car. To the chief's point, you can't leave your car there in a snowbank for 4 days. You've got to move it.
Yeah.
Or get towed.
I think that's a discussion.
I don't know if that's, a likely scenario or a possible scenario, but
It's not an ideal situation.
It happens, it does happen in other places.
Anytime you put you put a barrier into a plow operation, we look at this when we look at parking lots, it's a game changer. And inevitably, somebody is not going to move their car. Now it's a delayed response where, okay, we got to do the odd side of the street, and these guys got to get John Wells out here to make an emergency tow. Now we're 2 hours behind, and it's 3 inches deeper. It definitely throws a wrench into the pavement plan, the plowing operation plan. It wouldn't be an ideal situation if you would ask them, what do you think of this? I know the response,
Right, I know
but
the
I think
response.
it's a healthy conversation, to think outside the box for a solution. I mean, that's what we're trying to do, so.
I know the response too, but ideal situation in this community is not it doesn't present itself. There isn't one. So the response is going to be the same response you get on any question you ask. The first response is going to be negative, but, at some point, it becomes part of the DPW's problem, where they have to be part of this solution.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be part of the problem, be part of the solution whole thing. Well, the DPW needs to step up, and if they don't like that, well, make a proposal, tell us where to go, because the cars are gonna end up somewhere. And if we control it, we're in better shape than if we don't control it, even if on occasion we have to call Jarmos for an emergency tow. And, they can't just bury their head in the sand and pretend that it's not a DPW problem, because in essence, once the snow starts falling, it becomes their problem more than it becomes everyone in this room's problem. So it needs to be something that they're involved with.
Agreed, yeah, and everything has implications, so maybe it's an additional truck that's on, so now there's a snow and ice budget increase. It's City of Boston that spends $60,000 an hour during a storm and has hundreds of contractors. We're limited with set routes and time, but I agree with you, we need to have the dialogue.
I would just say, we have an informal committee going now, can be a formal committee, subcommittee going. Let's continue to noodle on it instead of tying up time at the BOS meeting right now about this, and let's come up with some ideas. We had some good cursory conversations, I thought, last week, and we'd certainly take more impact. I learned something now from you, from your point of view, so, but I agree with the chairman. Attitudes have to change. It can't just be about the way, because of this, because we have other things out here that are going to impact it, but I don't think this is the right forum to try to drag it out tonight. That's just my opinion.
No, I'm not trying to drag it out. I'm not one to be it. I don't want to be it myself, but, all right, so, we can still, accept the parking ban and the holiday parking meter limitations and changes, and we can, work on the solution as we go.
Okay.
And hopefully we find one before we need to, before it's necessary. All right, so is there any further discussion, any public comments about the winter parking ban or the holiday meter lack of restrictions, I guess? Okay, so we're doing one at a time. Make a motion to accept and approve the winter parking ban starting on December 1st, 2015 through March 15th, 2015. During all snowstorms and snow removal events, we also have additional parking bans. Is there a second?
Second, the date should be March 15, 2016.
That's true. That's correct, too, 2016. I'm sure it was the sticky finger, but it's okay. All right. So, all those in favor? 5 of us. Thank you. And move to accept and approve the holiday parking. Move to accept and approve the holiday parking downtown Maynard from Friday, November 27th until December 31st, 2015. 2-hour limit of free parking at meters. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Gavin again. He's the parking guy. All those in favor? Thank you, and thank you, Chief, for the information and the help.
You're welcome.
Good luck.
Thanks, Chief. Okay.
See you in December.
Yes, you will.
Okay. Item number 10, the Metro West Partnership discussion. A brief discussion with Paul Matthews, Executive Director, to provide an overview of who the partnership is.
Yeah, so, Mr. Chair.
Introduce him, Bill?
Mr. Chair, my pleasure to have Paul Matthews, the Executive Director of the 495 Metro West Partnership, with us this evening. This has been long overdue.
Thank you.
This has been a long overdue agenda item in getting representation from the partnership to a Board of Selectmen meeting. We've had conversations over the last several months, and I believe it's the first time we've actually had them in before the board, but it's a entity, the partnership, Maynard is a member community of, and Paul's going to get into the specifics of the overview, but it certainly is a partnership that we've had with the partnership now for several years. Paul's been with them, I think, a little over 11 years, and just the actual voice for the communities through different forums, representation at the State House, and collaboration. And fortunately for Paul, he gets to start his day with me and end his day with me. Just coincidentally, we were at a meeting earlier today as well, so you're lucky. Anyway, I'll turn it over to Paul and ask him to give an overview.
Okay.
Sure, thank you very much for this opportunity. Is this mic on, or?
Yeah, it should be.
Good.
Just want to make sure.
For the people at home.
Oh, right, of course. So I want to thank Kevin, I want to thank the town, I want to thank you for this opportunity. I'll make it brief, but I'll also keep it informal, so feel free to stop me with any questions. But as Kevin mentioned, I'm here as the executive director of the 495 Metro West Partnership. We're a nonprofit that serves 35 communities, including the town of Maynard, and we've been very fortunate to be able to work very closely with Kevin and Andrew and Bill on issues affecting Maynard and the region for the last few years. Although we're a nonprofit, we're governed by a public-private board of directors. So our board actually includes Bill representing the town of Maynard on our board of directors. So that list is actually included in your packet. I thought it might be interesting for you to see the other people involved on the regional level. You can see that there's a number of people involved from select boards, town administrators, town planners, large companies, environmentalists, regional transit authorities, economic development authorities, and a whole host of others. The intention around our founding back in 2003 was the fact that this region had really become economically hugely important to the Commonwealth, and yet a lot of the communities were hosting large companies or large facilities, like perhaps the town of Maynard, and yet the state attention was really focused on our urban centers. I think we all agree that there's still a lot of state focus on our urban centers. Gateway cities are very important to the state, but there's still a very important role for the state to work with smaller suburban communities like Maynard. So back in 2003, a group of legislators, municipal officials, and private companies thought instead of forming an intermunicipal organization and a larger private sector organization, they looked nationally and saw like the Research Triangle in North Carolina, Silicon Valley. They were marrying public and private sector to create regional development organizations that talked about issues important to both the public and private sector in order to maximize effectiveness. So we don't, the reason you have not seen me in here advocating on some sort of divisive issue like tax rates is that's not our job. Our job is the regional economy, and our job is to listen to officials like you, like Kevin, like Bill, like Andrew, and other private sector leaders in the region over what are major issues that affect our regional economy, and then in turn advocate for solutions from the state and federal government and do what we can to develop solutions here. So I've given you our most recent annual report, of which 90% of the time I simply point at the map, which you can see Maynard is an important part of. But the report does cover a lot of our work on transportation issues, on water resources issues, so-called MS4. EPA has rolled out the draft MS4 permit, which has huge implications from a financial standpoint for towns. A lot of what we've been doing throughout the draft permit period is providing regional input back to the EPA on how that's going to affect small towns. Not all of us are large cities with large public works departments with the capacity to handle those requirements, so we've been making that point. We also, from our very beginning, we're really focused on the needs of the regional economy. So I've also included our most recent regional economic report, Strengthening Numbers, which talks about our regional payroll is $21 billion. You know, that's certainly when you open the conversation with the state government and point out our regional payroll, it's a great way to get noticed and have your concerns taken seriously. But we also included in this package Maynard's numbers. So then that way, from a contextual standpoint, as you apply for grants, as you work on business development or marketing, you can have access to your own numbers compared to the regional numbers, whether it be educational attainment, employment, or some of the other issues. So we try to provide technical assistance to the towns in our service area as much as possible. As a consequence, we worked very closely with Kevin's predecessor as we worked with the Patrick administration on a project called the 495 Metro West Development Compact. We're able to advocate for the state to prioritize development in your downtown. And at the time at Clock Tower Place, though I know it's now Mill and Main, I made the mistake when we hosted Kevin this morning. I didn't have enough coffee and slipped and called it Clock Tower Place, and I was immediately told that I needed to catch on to the Mill and Main.
Slight nudge.
Yes, yes. But a lot of what we've done over the years is advocate on behalf of your downtown and the mill with state officials in order to make sure that the town can get the benefit of whatever development programs, incentives, and resources are available. So on that sort of front, we've been very successful on two fronts as well. One is, I included some information, I know Bill is working on a cultural district application on behalf of the town. The state, about a year and a half ago, went out with a new initiative, a creative economy network initiative, and they asked key regional players around the state to form creative economy networks. We did form one in this region. To date, there are no state funding resources available, but it's intended to be an opportunity to learn from other areas of the Commonwealth what they're doing on issues like cultural districts. So we did found this in conjunction with the Metro West Visitors Bureau. We're hopeful it will pay dividends in terms of additional technical assistance from the state for communities like Maynard looking at cultural districts. In addition, I included some language regarding a commission that Representative Kate Hogan sponsored actually in last year's state budget, but the money in the appointments did not take place last year, so she fought very hard with other members of the regional delegation to restore funding and restore language. So this language is about the 495 Metro West Suburban Edge Community Commission, and Representative Hogan and the other legislators saw a real need here, and she really is the one who drove the bus, no pun intended, going to legislative leaders saying that while there is an organized effort around gateway cities, there needs to be an equal weight given to conversations with small suburban communities over what their needs are. Whether it be the 40R program, whether it be a whole host of other development issues, there should be resources and assistance available for small suburban communities. So this effort is in, this language is in the House supplemental budget. There's matching language in the Senate supplemental budget, so this is expected to be approved shortly when the supplemental budget goes before the governor. And the Baker-Polito administration is currently considering appointments to this commission. I know Kevin voiced interest last year and voiced interest this year. We're very hopeful that he will be one of the final candidates the administration selects. That's not up to me, but regardless of who the candidates are, we plan on coming back and talking to Kevin and the other towns regularly about the work that's being done around this. So I've given you a lot of information. I'm happy to take questions. Compliments?
Any questions?
Quick comments.
Yeah, sure.
Great binder here with information. That's very nice. Thank you. Easy to follow. Obviously, we're on the track to try to bring development back into this town.
Yes.
And up-level what we have here as far as types of businesses and progression with, bringing companies back in here, maybe high-tech. There's a number of things that have changed in the model of how businesses compete nowadays. One of the challenges I've always heard about Maynard specifically is it's sort of too far from 128 and it's too far from 495.
Yeah.
Right? But it's got this really busy corridor running right through it, 117, which is busy every single morning. So I know Maynard's on the map here, and it's still really, really small because that's what we are is land-wise, right? But the impact is pretty broad. So I'm wondering, has there been discussions with what Maynard's trying to do here? And are you aware with the challenges the town's gone through over the last, say, 10 years with bigger companies downsizing, the market changing, technology being disrupted, and things going on? There's a bunch of growth on 495, I see that, but there's also been quite a few evacuations from the 495 area as well. Big companies like Fidelity and so on and so forth. But so what are you hearing, and what are you thinking about from your point of view with regard to Maynard's the possibility of having 117 be a bigger corridor to connect to 495?
I think it's a very fair point. And, other people who work in real estate on a daily basis constantly remind me, location, location, location. I think you can view this location as a negative or as a positive. And the fact remains you can and should bill it as a positive. The presentation Kevin mentioned about this morning was we have an Energy and Sustainable Development Committee. In working with Kevin, Andrew, and Bill, we were very well aware of what the town's been doing to be innovative regarding Mill and Main. And everything from ensuring that the property owner was, collaborative and committed to working with the town on its goals, to actively partnering with them as they look at their next phase of that, of what they're going to be doing over there. So what we were able to do was bring in Kevin this morning and Saracen to talk about what they're doing on site. And they closed with a little video that was actually very impressive, talking about the location and how it lies between 495 and 128, and that's an asset. And I would argue, and have actually in past years, to state officials, that it is an asset. When we're doing the development compact, that's before Saracen purchased the property, obviously, but it was still going through a lot of turmoil. And one of the points I made to the state is, it's a real critical opportunity when you start talking about office space and pricing, right? When you're talking to companies looking at siting locations, sometimes they absolutely want to be in the Seaport District and pay a premium. More power to them, right? I mean, if they can afford to pay that, they can afford to pay that. But there absolutely is a role for the type of space and the type of amenities and the character that Maynard can offer. And I think that that project really illustrates that. The other point I would make is the companies we work with along 495, right? Like, let me point out a few. Red Hat, IBM, and Cisco. They're in Littleton, Boxborough, Westford. There's a real strong IT component up there where they're actively hiring from the Boston region and pulling young people out. And we're helping them with Crosstown Connect, which has been an issue here in town. We've worked with a number of people on transportation issues. That's an ongoing effort, but the real critical component there is the amenities. Because when you talk to people who live in Cambridge and are young technology workers, they want to see the type of amenities. When you talk about this downtown and walk through this downtown, there's a lot going on now. I think a lot more could be going on. I think the town's been doing a lot to lay the groundwork for that. I really want to commend the town, frankly. I mean, when Kevin was talking this morning about the transition between owners, it was clear how much was going on behind the scenes on the part of the town, and a lot of towns would not have been able to be that adroit, and my compliment to everyone involved.
I appreciate that. I think what it shows now is, you look at a community like Burlington, for example, 10 years ago wasn't nearly the technology hub it is now. There's a number of major corporations, Fortune 100 companies that actually exist up there now. And Chris, actually your company, one of them that's up in the area, right? But they made a concerted effort to work with the ancillary partners around the area to enhance the area and get the message out. And I just want to make sure that we're getting the same sort of play, and I appreciate what you can do, getting the word out about Maynard and how we're trying to change and drive, opportunity for new businesses in the modern age now, so.
Absolutely.
So, are you done?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just checking. So are you guys have any relationship with or to the 495 business publication that comes out?
Oh, you mean Metro West 495 Biz, which is it's an electronic publication and they're a quarterly journal?
It's
Yes.
a bi-monthly magazine, a little bit bigger than this.
Yep.
Folded.
So we work with them occasionally.
Okay.
They're not formally affiliated with us, like we're not a business, they're a publisher. We've done, this is the third straight year we've done a regional employer survey with them, where we work with them to jointly blast out an employer survey and then publicize the results, of which are mentioned in the strengthening numbers item. 70% of the employers responding in this region are very optimistic about economic conditions.
Yeah, it's just funny because that actually came this afternoon before I came here. So to see the two things in one day is kind of interesting. But one of the questions, and we heard a lot about it when we talked about the Crosstown Connect and the compact and all that, is the reverse commute.
Yes.
And just talking about Westford, that's kind of that's the whole thing. When you talk about the reverse commute, and I look at your map, it goes out into Shrewsbury and stuff. When you guys are discussing it, how far out do you guys see that being a factor, or that being a legitimate concern, or a legitimate piece of what you have to consider as you start to move things around and think of ways to attract?
Well, it's interesting because, to take a step back from the Boston region for a minute, right, I've done national development fellowships with colleagues from around the country. And when I talk to colleagues in the Atlanta region, it's fascinating to me because, look, I mean, Massachusetts in many ways is still parochial. Everybody remembers their high school rivalries, You look at like an Atlanta metro region, if you were to overlay that over Boston, it would go all the way out to Northampton. And yet, in Atlanta, companies think nothing of locating 50 miles outside the Atlanta downtown. And I would argue the same thing's true here, and I think long-term, what we're going to see, like the city of Worcester, for instance, is very committed, and a high priority of theirs is the so-called reverse commute, and making sure that there's adequate flow back and forth all the way out to Worcester. So, frankly, we tend to treat all the communities in our service area that are linked by commuter rail as needing that level of additional state assistance to do last mile, whether it be, last mile in 2015 or last mile in 2025 or last mile in 2035. I think it's going to be an active issue that needs to be addressed to fuel continued sustainable growth.
Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else? Questions?
I do. As of last January, this little newsletter here says the unemployment was 4.4% for the region.
Yep.
And now October, fast forward, October, November, you seeing that as going down in the near future?
I'll be 100% candid with you, I didn't check the numbers before I came in, so I don't know. I would say that, I know that the last issue of UMass Benchmarks, which is a quarterly economic journal, was provoking some concern, and I know the Secretary of A&F recently raised some potential concerns on state revenue, which is usually a leading indicator. I don't know, I do think that the state leadership in place has been admirably focused on fiscal constraint and on preserving stability, which I think is hopefully going to have a reassuring effect economically. But that's all personal projection.
And our participation in the partnership, you see that having, our projects are obviously kicking off and getting going. That promotes Maynard to the point of more jobs are coming in, hopefully people want to work here, want to stay here, things like that with the partnership.
Absolutely. Like today's presentation, for instance, was in front of our Energy and Sustainable Development Committee. Now, there's over 100 people on that committee distribution list. We did not have 100 this morning, but they'll all get a copy of the presentation and know what Kevin was saying and what they were hearing about what's going on at Mill and Main. In addition, beyond the committee, we put the committee proceedings up on our website, and we also release them in our electronic newsletter. And that goes not only to other towns, but to developers, companies, residents up and down the corridor. I'm not going to pretend we're omniscient. We're not a government agency, so I don't have access to like a government listing. But we've been building that list for over a decade, so it's a pretty good list. And I also, I haven't mentioned this to Kevin, but I was talking to state officials this afternoon after our committee meeting this morning, and they were aggressively asking me how things were going because they were part of a meeting with Kevin, with Andrew, with Bill, that Representative Hogan set up back, what was that, Bill, maybe July? July, guys?
I think a couple of the selectmen were there.
Yeah. It was...
That was the
walk-around?
Congressman Song, is that one? Oh, you're talking about the State House.
The State House.
Yeah, that was,
June or July.
Yeah.
And there were some senior staff members there for Secretary Ash.
Correct.
And I've briefed them on what's happening, and they've actively asked me. I mean, so it's definitely has their attention and their interest. And let's be honest here, all you have to do is Google Maynard, and look at an aerial, and it's immediately obvious how important that facility is to the town of Maynard. I mean, It's hard to miss it.
Mr. Chair, if I could just add on to Selectman Egan's point there. We obviously keep in frequent communication with Paul and his team at the partnership, and Bill is a member, actually is on the board of directors for the partnership as well. But one of the nice things, as Paul said, is this kind of extensive network. Oftentimes, folks that are looking for 30,000 square feet will reach out to the partnership and say, hey, we need 30,000 square feet of business space, and these are kind of our criteria, but we're willing to talk about other things. That's an opportunity where the communication coming out from us and them knowing what's going on in town is vital, because we've sent them information that, hey, about Saracen space, that's one, but also, the Stratus building that's vacant. Hey, if we got X hundred thousands of square feet available, ready to go for, commercial office space, and it's on their radar, and vice versa. It's on the ability for them to push it out in when they receive inquiries. Hey, why don't you check out Maynard? They got specific space. So it's really a great vessel to be able to get the bigger network that we just don't have, here in town to reach out to those large corporations and small corporations up and down the 495 corridor. So.
Well, thank you for that, Kevin.
Yeah.
David, any questions?
No question, just thank you, Paul, for coming in. Actually, Terrence had the exact question that I had for you, and you may recall the day we walked down the street, I asked that question about our area and how to attract from around 495 and 128, given where we're located. But thank you, and I look forward to continued good. The point Kevin just made is huge in that, if we're in the game when people are looking for, space and they know that we're there, that's three-quarters of the battle. So, thank you.
No, you're welcome. And Kevin had mentioned that the facility's really a spark regionally, and I think that's a great metaphor, and I think it's very accurate. you know? I mean, frankly, I like coming to Maynard to have coffee downtown because you got plenty of places to choose from. They're great coffee places, and it's a great downtown.
Jason?
I don't really have anything other than, Paul, thank you for coming. I did attend the meeting, I think, about a month ago with Bill, with the DEP leadership.
Yeah. Thank you.
It was an excellent meeting. Jessica did a great job, and thank you guys for the advocacy on that, especially with DEP and obviously the federal government and the EPA on those issues, since they're potentially crushing to a lot of smaller communities.
Well, you're welcome, and thank you for making that meeting. I'm glad you mentioned it, because Jessica my deputy director and one coworker is Jessica Strunkin, who does a lot of this work firsthand, and she's been very active in taking the lead on the MS4 stormwater issue. And to the point the Selectman just made, we're very fortunate, and credit goes to the DEP commissioner. It's a sign that we're doing something right when the DEP commissioner calls us and says, can I come out and bring our senior leadership to speak to the region? And he did a very nice job. He's always been active working with municipal government, so one of the things he did was created a position and an emphasis within DEP to help municipalities, which, you know, I thought was a tremendous step. But I appreciate you being there, and I appreciate the town being represented for that conversation.
Sure.
Any more? David?
No, I'm all set.
Tim?
All set.
Terrence? Anybody else?
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Talk soon.
Have a great night.
Thanks, Becky.
When did we do the original abatements?
Last one, right? Last meeting? Not the special one, the one before.
Yeah, last that. Yeah. You remember the time, do you? The 24th. I'll bring it up.
Okay.
Yeah. I already told him that I couldn't be there, but we'll find out.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
Just waiting for Dropbox to open up the file here. Okay, so that abatement,
Yeah, so, Mr. Chair, we don't have any formal written documentation. I took the request, the directive from the board back to Public Works folks the day after our meeting to look further into the water usage and look at closer detail as far as the historical usage and the kind of the anomaly. At this point, the DPW is recommending the abatement that was proposed at our last meeting, as is. The usage, first of all, the usage was there, the water was used. They're recommending simply the computer calculation adjustment, and the usage appears to be an increase during that quarter, if you will, due to a pool that's on site, and there is some evidence historically during that same time period where there has been spikes. Can't speak for the in between last 2 years, but during that time frame, and that they have a pool, the resident has a pool there as well. Aside from that, there's no additional recommendation of abatement. That the water usage went through the meter. There's nothing faulty. There's no other issue that was identified. So the recommendation for the abatement for 204 Great Road is the $333.95 related to the computer calculation that was addressed at our last meeting.
This is the one we asked them to get
Yeah, it's,
The check on, they were saying it was 10 times the amount.
I guess I have a problem with the whole process with this particular one. And we didn't know they had a pool? I mean, so everybody's shocked by this number, including apparently the homeowner, is shocked by this tremendous increase in water, seeks the abatement, not knowing that there's a, error that's been made through no fault of theirs with the meter, but nobody knows that there's a pool. And in other cases that we discussed in the meeting with Chris and I and yourself, there were other people where there was less of a drastic supposed increase, and they went out and they came back and told us there were new pipes in the basement and so on and so forth. So I'm just kind of, I'm a little concerned that, how do we pick and choose what we go and look at? Because I would think if you drove over to 204 Great Road and noticed a pool, that might be the first hint as to why the water bill jumped so much, the error in calculations notwithstanding. Just my comment about the whole abatement on this particular one, but...
Yeah, in addition to that, I thought we were asking for clarification on the comment that it was 10 times the normal bill. We wanted to see some idea that that was actually accurate, by someone was gonna check that, right, to see if that actually...
Yeah, it was really the usage,
The 10 times the usage, which would equate to an additional bill, right?
it wasn't 10, it was 5,000 something again.
Just
Discrepancy was not noticed in 2013 or 2012, which is the look-back period that the DPW used. Don't want to make too many excuses for them, but we don't know why, but we suspect that the homeowner filled the pool with purchased water rather than with town water in those 2 years. When we asked Mr. Okafor to go back further, really look at this issue, he went back about 10 years, and every September, October billing cycle, you see that spike.
It's a spike, yeah.
And, we have that record. So that, I think, to your point, Mr. Chairman, that was where they saw that there's more to this than just looking back 1 year and saying, oh, it went up 5 times from a year ago. That, and they knew they had that software issue, so they that's where they stopped looking. We looked back further and saw there was more to it than that.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions or concerns about this one? The answer, I guess, is, this is as good an answer as we're gonna get. I'm not sure if I agree with the process as it was explained several times in our meeting and since, with how they determine who they abate and who they don't abate, but...
Yeah, it'll continue to, internally address that. We've had some, obviously, we haven't had any abatements since then. So there's been some new discussions and updates and recommendations, and we'll continue to internally, improve that, so.
Okay. And we're certain as a group that the computer problem has been repaired, and this is a one-time thing that we've seen so many of these. Are you guys confident with that, or is?
Yeah, for these particular reasons as to what they've been addressed.
Okay, so just to recap, the spike in the water usage is due to a pool, and other than that, the actual abatement itself is based and due to a similar computer calculation issue as the other abatements that we already approved. Correct?
Yes. So the abated amount is...
What's the total abatement we're offering to provide to them?
The abatement in total is...
$333.95.
Yeah, $333.
95 cents.
95 cents, yeah.
Okay, what's the abatement bill that's sitting in Dropbox for $33.35?
Yeah, it's like $33.25 bill is in there.
That's just a picture of their most recent bill, I believe, and that's the bill between the setting of the rate and the next reading.
That's correct.
So that's the makeup bill, which
is
I don't
not
see,
a full quarter.
I don't see the correction that was supposed to be printed on there. Did they get a separate piece of paper? Or did we just kind of not send that out?
That's the Kelly and Ryan.
Those bills won't go out until December 1st.
Okay. So they're gonna go out with a note explaining why there's two? Okay.
That's part of it. I wanted to talk to you about that, and you hadn't heard that because you were away.
Okay.
There's a conversation of not doing double billing, just doing it all as in one, yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what he said.
It's two separate bills. Mechanically, they can't do it on one
Right.
bill.
Right, but with,
They'll do it in one mailing.
one
With a note.
mailing with a note was the discussion, okay.
Correct. Yes.
All right, so the abatement, move to accept and approve the request for abatement ID number 2380. Is there a second?
Second.
Jason, okay, is there any further discussion, any questions? All those in favor of the
Quick comment.
motion?
So I'm completely understanding this. Did the abatement that we're giving them now change from the one that came before us two weeks ago?
No,
No.
Same amount we're abating, what they're asked for?
yes.
No, they didn't ask for an amount. The DPW assigned them that amount based on a calculation error.
All right, and
It's
this is the same amount that was,
amended amount from the 4th, or 6th.
even though we have found out now that there actually is a pool there, so that's.
The abatement is because of the software error, not because of the pool. The question about that particular abatement was, the software error doesn't explain this
Was there
discrepancy.
more going
So we went
on,
back
is
and looked
really
at
the
it.
concern.
Right.
So there is no abatement for the pool, the abatement is for the software error.
They use the water, essentially, so, but the software glitch calculation is what's being corrected.
They got charged for
Gotcha.
1,020 units
Yeah.
twice.
Yeah, that's it, it was 1,020, 1020 units, double. And that's the
That was
delta.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, all those in favor of accepting and approving abatement 2380? Thank you. These are all, I think everything up there is all set.
Be an email. See you Monday, Tuesday.
Okay. We are on to item number 14, Parker Street update,
Yeah.
See you Monday.
if there is one.
Are we skipping Thursday?
13 was canceled. Yep. 14 weeks, they canceled 13.
So we're on,
This abatement? See you.
where are we at? Parker Street.
Well, but if somebody tuned in late, they won't know either, so.
I scribbled my name last time, yeah.
Yeah, it looks like you scribbled it out.
Yeah, I scribbled it out, because I was mad at the pencil.
No, I already knew about that, yeah, yeah.
About the cost.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fine. Is it because it's an added weight?
Keep your eyes off my Snickers bar.
Folding.
This is the bag you done right there, look at this.
So everybody should reset back to 0.
Oh, yeah, I talked about, yeah. Not the mailing.
Some of those
Yeah.
are pretty cool. Those.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, we're ready.
So there's not a whole lot of updates between Thursday and today, but, anyway, the Parker Street front, I sent an email out to the board this evening as a follow-up, to Selectman Gavin's question with regards to, Attorney Witten's position on the SHI and the 10% and the new construction, effects of that. So that update was provided. You want to make sure that you did get that response. So you have that yet. I don't expect that you have seen that yet. And also, so I've spoken to Attorney Witten actually this evening with regards to where we're at with sort of the NBOD bylaw comments. We're still waiting on some clarifications that had come up from the Hawthorne presentation, but all in all, I think we're moving forward. The plan is to Attorney Witten to come to our next selectmen's meeting to present a sort of final draft. At that time, I don't know that it necessarily, I'm not sure how early we'll be able to circulate that, so I don't know that we'll necessarily be in a position to approve and accept that draft. I hope that we could be at that point, but potentially we're not, but it gives us that window of a final Board of Selectmen meeting on the 17th to be able to do that. So I wanted to make sure we had a meeting in between in case there was questions or concerns with the bylaw. That was the version that you saw last before an actual meeting that's just getting adopted. So he will be in attendance at that meeting, and hopefully we can get that sort of updated so there's enough time for the board to review and have some thoughtful discussion during that meeting. Yes.
While you're talking about while you're mentioning a possible, another meeting, the potential exists, just for the 4 other selectmen, there's a potential exists, the housing folks that are making their presentation tomorrow night at the golf course at 6:30 or 7? 7 o'clock. They are requesting a meeting with the selectmen and the planning board together.
Bill read the flyer
And,
tonight when we were meeting.
Bill Nemser and the chair of the planning board are going to get back to us with some potential dates, and we'll schedule that once we get those dates. But we'll schedule it through email so everybody knows.
Yeah, if there's anybody that's aware specifically that there's no conflict, we had thrown around possibly Thursday, November 12th. But as the chair said, we will circulate that and engage folks' availability, but certainly the planning board meets opposite Tuesdays as us, and when there seems to be the least amount of meeting requirements and availability. So we're hoping that possibly the Thursday, November 12th will work for both boards. Aside from that, if there's any questions, follow up on the 129 Parker Street front. There was, from what I've seen, there's been some positive feedback with regards to the Hawthorne retirement presentation. I've specifically have heard in person from folks that appreciated the presentation and liked what was being proposed. There seemed to be some good positive buzz around that proposal. I'm hoping that I sent an email out to the entire board this afternoon as an invite from the capital properties with regards to an invitation to attend the ribbon cutting party that Market 32 by Price Chopper in Sutton on October 27th. An opportunity for town officials to see what they're proposing to be located in Maynard, which would really be the second location in Massachusetts under this new generation concept. Aside from whether or not you're able to attend or interested in attending, I think in the next coming future months, it would be wise, and we would look to do a similar presentation and conversation that we had with Hawthorne with Market 32, if they're the ones to move forward. So, any other questions on Parker Street?
No, we did talk to them last week after the meeting, and they said that they were willing to ask, and from everyone that they spoke to, that they would all be willing to come in and make a similar presentation.
Yes.
And then the other thing we talked about, you and I talked about it, in regards to the meeting at the grocery store, that if, for those who couldn't make it the 24th, we might be able to get out there on another date, kind of get a tour, and then on the way back, go through the Hawthorne development in Southborough, Westborough, the one in 20.
Westborough, yeah.
So those are just a couple of those things.
So, yeah, the other meeting is the 27th. Those a week from tonight, 5:30 to 7:30. But yeah, I think, obviously, anybody can get up to Sutton on their free will. At that point, it'll be to the public. But also, if there's an interest for something more formal, we can schedule that piece as well.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Economic development update.
All right. So just kind of leading off with where we were with Paul, had an opportunity, invited to speak to their committee, a subcommittee, as Paul said, it's about 100 members, reach and present with John Mencken from Saracen Properties and Henry St. Hilaire, where the mill is going. I was able to present sort of the history behind the mill, kind of past and present day, and they revealed a similar presentation to what the board has seen, but for the first time what I've seen, as Paul referenced, was about a 90-second marketing video that was very well well done. The video was done by their marketing firm that they've engaged, and it really provides a nice flash and selling piece, obviously for the Mill and Main property, but some catchment of the downtown and the type of community Maynard is, and it was very well received and well done. There's no vocals with it. It's sort of music that plays in the background.
Penny Hill?
With some text. Yeah, I'm not sure. There's some text as to kind of what you're looking at and moving people in the renditions and things like that. So when that becomes available, I will share that with the board, and they're going to start to push that out. To that point, they're hoping by mid-November that their actual leasing office will be open sometime probably around November 15th. That will be a cutting-edge leasing office that when you get off the elevator, you'll see things like their renditions on the wall. They'll have a constant playing video, a very professional, high-end technology, high-class leasing office that they'll bring potential tenants into and really be able to market the space that they're looking to lease. So we're excited about that. Henry tells me that the technology equipment, I think, arrives this week, and they've done a lot of the build-out of the space already, so probably by mid-November, they'll be relocated into a corner leasing office on Building 3 on the 3rd floor. And what that means is essentially when the Gateway Plaza concept that they term as the Gateway Plaza opens, they've got a corner location on Building 3, which is the back of the mill pond. So from that end, they'll be able to view the mill pond, and from the other the side of the building of Building 3, they'll look right down on Gateway Plaza. So it sounds exciting, a good move on their part to invest in that and attract potential tenants. We've had conversations with CB Richard Ellis about the Walgreens site and potential uses. We're also connecting them with Emerson Hospital. We have a contact at Emerson Hospital. And actually, coincidentally, is somebody that Andrew knew after the name was provided to us. So that always helps. But they're interested in Maynard. Their data, their demographics, everything is pointing for the need to have a medical clinic, an Emerson Medical Clinic located here in Maine. Their sort of box, if you will, concept is about a first floor, 5,000 square foot facility. But there was some conversation potentially that they might be looking to add an MRI component to it and possibly some other stuff. But there's definitely interest, and we have that dialogue going. And as I said, we have connected them to Walgreens. The Walgreens space is extremely ideal for many reasons, but it's also more than double what they're looking for at this point. So that's a hindrance, but it's very ideal with what their concept is. So hopefully we can get a concept there into town, and it'll be I think only something that will continue to expand. I think it'll be successful.
Done.
We had a conversation with the Fine Arts Theater owner about his current plans at the Fine Arts Theater itself and on Main Street. As we discussed before, he purchased the adjacent space next to the quarterdeck, between the quarterdeck and the residential complex on Main Street. And what he's done there is cleaned it up and is available for undetermined business or residential use in the near future. So he tells us at this point he's open to, really open to anything. He doesn't have a prescribed idea for a building or a specific tenant in mind. But we have the ongoing dialogue with him. Oftentimes we get folks that will come in and we can refer them to those type of opportunities that are in town. And he's also stated that he's in ongoing negotiations for the adjacent space, the restaurant space adjacent to the theater. So that would be nice to see. Gigi's, as you met earlier this evening, is set to open in mid-November. That's kind of where they'd hope to be, but certainly hopefully by the end of the month, moving into the former cast iron kitchen. And I had the same question that Selectman Gavin had with the Vietnamese sushi thing when they came in the office a couple of weeks ago to meet, so, it wasn't that off the wall, but as they explained it, there is a lot of, I've been in some of the American menus that have some form of a basic sushi, but it's not as common of a lineup, but we wish them success, and it's great to see that from a economic development standpoint, that there's actual business back into that space that's been vacant. To Die For Dips and Spreads is a wholesale distributor and online retailer of high-end cheese products. They're moving from Acton to Maynard. They're essentially moving Halloween weekend and hope to open in early November, I think November 2nd. There's no retail, but about four plus employees, and they're looking to move into 24 Main Street and the Epicurean Feast building in the back, or it should be the old bowling alley space. So they seem to be a growing distributor. They have, looking at their website, they have their product in several distribution, several retail entities in several states. So, hopefully that looks like a successful operation, and we welcome them into Maynard. The property renovation at the Powder Mill property for future office subdivisions, the contact, they're open to changing and adding to the mix on the parcel, but there's no specific plans yet. I think they're still trying to work it out on their end with regards to the Stratus building space and what the future of that may look. I believe the move-in date for Stratus into the mill has been pushed back slightly. The last day we had was March 11th, but my conversation with Jill, I think, is now like March 25th. But either way, it's still March of 2016 that they're going to be moving into Building 5.
Gavin, quick question on the Stratus building that's going to be left behind. A few months back, I think it was, the state wrote to us saying that they were searching out in our area. Did anything ever come of that?
No, we circulated that notice, and I forget the specific, nothing came of it, but
the DPH
they looked at it, yeah.
DMH.
It was a DMH opportunity for office space.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of like an RFP process and I know they've looked at it, but for whatever reason, it didn't work out. Yeah.
Just wanted to make sure it didn't fall through the cracks.
No. All those entities looked at that opportunity. As we've mentioned a couple times, the housing production plan phase 2 is slated for tomorrow. Is it 7 or 6?
My information says 6 p.m.
Yeah, I believe it's 7. There's an advertisement. I'll double check and confirm. But when we saw Bill earlier, he had the flyer and he said it was 7. So
the housing meeting tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow at the Maynard.
It's at the golf course.
Yep.
Clubhouse. Not on one of the greens.
Not on the second hole.
It will not be open bar.
Actually,
KNAF, that project is continuing on. The infrastructure installation is still in progress, and they're anticipating asphalt and paving starting the first week of November. That project we continue to watch and monitor. Yeah. The Mill and Main Phase 1A, what they term Phase 1A, which is a fairly sizable piece of the project, several facade improvements through a lot of the buildings, the demo of the specific connector pieces, all that is a big piece of Phase 1A, but that site plan and special permit is scheduled before the planning board for November 10th. That's all I have on economic development. Good some. You got something?
Did you cover the van request?
Yeah, the TA report.
Oh, sorry, you report.
Any questions there? All right, TA report. Kind of aligning with a couple items that line up with the goals for the board for this year, improving communications. Got the new town hall sign that everybody has seen that's been installed. Messages are managed through the Office of Municipal Services and coordinating with Aaron, the facilities manager. We're looking at kind of we've had some there's a lot of the external civic groups that we've had some signage requests, but also some issues. There was a recent posting at the fire station that we adjusted, and so we're working with Aaron, the facilities manager, kind of coming up with a policy request for the use of particularly those two locations, which are the signboard, visible signboards, and also which the police chief controls with the electronic signboard and some sort of protocol and policy procedure with getting messages and precedence or priority in what goes on there. But if you haven't, and it's dark now, take a look at our new sign. I think it's something that's long overdue. It's something that I planned about 18 months ago. I'd been working on the resources to acquire and fund it. I think it's much more fitting than what was out there. The only last piece to it, it's not a finished product, is the lighting. The light was just as old as the original sign, but it's a huge, massive piece that kind of blocks it. Now it's going to be adjusted so the lighting is a little bit more appropriate and modern, but I think it's a nice addition and improvement to that. But again,
That was done by our staff?
yeah, our staff
Great,
did the
it
installation.
really looks nice.
Yeah.
I think it gives I saw it in a photograph this morning, and I
Oh, good, yeah.
was proud of it. It was-
Yeah.
It's much.
Yeah, it's not, we like the concept because it wasn't anything that was tacky or too much, references the town of Maynard, and, there's a four lines that we can create a message and get it to folks.
Put that on the shoveling, so you can get to it when the winter comes.
Yeah.
Make sure you don't forget about that.
Yeah, I know.
Otherwise you'll have a sign with not.
Yeah,
3
that we can't get to.
Yeah.
No parking sign.
It's on the fiscal policies end of things. We had a joint meeting between the chairman of the finance committee, the chairman of the school committee, Chris, the board of selectmen, myself, Pete DeChico, the school business manager, Mike Guzzo, and Andrew and I, to discuss basically sketch out some discussions around a consensus on some policies, looking at big picture stuff as potential for single tax rate and new growth caps, stabilization funding policies relevant to capital and OPEB. Accommodated costs was a big discussion, and accommodated costs specific with health insurance, pension, those costs that are sort of absorbed or acknowledged within the town budget, and the recognition of what happens when they add headcount, what happens, some sort of policy as we did on the town side. If you recall, we utilized some free cash to account for the addition of 6 new hires that we had, or 6 eligible folks from the recent hires for the OPEB costs, and factoring in what that might be, whether it's through turnover or through actual addition of headcount, that they account for what those costs were and budget for it, and it would stay in the budget and be transferred into the OPEB fund. Other conversation topics, use of free cash, et cetera. So it was a good sort of meeting where everybody was in the room. I don't know if you want to add anything more of that, maybe your report. But
The question I had was just a clarification at some point in the discussion that kind of took place towards the end in Chapter 70.
Yeah.
Where the suggestion was made by the FinCom chair that, Chapter 70 is kind of, I don't want to phrase it properly and put words in any of the people's mouths that were involved in that discussion between themselves, but his point was kind of the Chapter 70 money goes where it goes, and then the town additionally pays for what the Chapter 70 money is earmarked for from the state. I just want to, at some point in the budget process, it'd be nice to kind of have a little bit of clarification on that, because, and to the point, anytime anybody asks a question with the word school in it in dollars, people want to scream and say, oh, you're hurting the schools, you're hurting the children. Well, that's not the point of the discussion.
Yeah.
The point of the discussion will be to understand better how that process works from my standpoint. And so when someone that understands those things reads it somewhere, that the question is answered appropriately.
That kind of stemmed from us just sharing the fact that the Chapter 70 formula includes some account for some health insurance, health care costs that are part of that Chapter 70 number that the town doesn't see. The other piece of the add to that is that Maynard has been very generous, consciously generous with the school system, and that, we've funded the budget well above net school spending. And that's that net school spending number that says, from DOE, that this is kind of your net school spending where you should be, and where is Maynard above that net school spending. And that's where, we're filling in that gap with, additional, expense or additional budget
Right.
availability, so.
There's no, and I don't have a problem with that per se, it's just a clear explanation for everybody else that's wondering when that discussion takes place, what it means. That's all. Thanks.
Okay. Code enforcement has been a daily conversation in the office, mostly between Andrew and myself and even Bill Nemser quite frequently with regards to code enforcement and, what exists given existing mass statutes, existing bylaws, whose responsibility and level, and the fact that town doesn't have a dedicated code enforcement officer, and there's some overlap. There's a big conversation, but there's also a conversation around specific properties in town. Specifically, the 35 River Street, we've been contacting the owner there, reported to her that the property has been vandalized, at least 2 of the windows have been broken. There was a lull that was parked there, commercial lull with her permission, but it belongs to a local developer, and there was a conversation about one, that she knew whether it was there, and if it was from a legally can it be parked there. So that continues to be addressed, that particular piece of property, and there's some other issues with tax delinquency, et cetera, that we're continuing to push. 13 Parker Street is a property located across from McDonald Development's site, the duplex there on Parker Street. I've asked them to look into, from a zoning standpoint, regards to a commercial backhoe of some sort that's there on the property that's been there for a number of years, and that's pushing forward. We had to research, it's an allowable use when there's a special permit granted. So doing the history, there's nothing recently, but if there's historically been any special permit, which we don't believe there is, and now the next step is you need to apply for a special permit and or remove if not granted.
Who would they apply that to, the
zoning board?
The zoning board,
Yeah.
okay. I think it's, a business sort of storage area from, somebody that's not living there, but is related to the owner. So that's one of those kind of things that, is out there from a perception, from a, code enforcement piece. Parker Street, 7 Parker Street, is being sent a letter as well, outlining violations, expectations, and next steps. The building commissioner was actually on vacation this week, trying to get an exact update if the letter actually went out or where that's at. 7 Parker Street being the building there, Murphy Snyder building, and so that process was initiated, and I've heard from some of the board members that was initiated well before a letter was sent by a resident. We tried to do it the amicable way and say, it's a piece of glass, can we get it replaced? Bill Nemser actually started the initiative, reached out, found the owner, has reached out a couple of times via person, was sort of given the, we'll get it done. Deadlines went by, nothing happened, and then subsequently followed up with him doing nothing. He drafted
a letter under my signature that went out, that wasn't from an enforcement standpoint, because I have no authority to do that, but a strong recommendation that he address it. Nothing happened. So all this was going on, as you recall, there was a resident letter and signed petition that accompanied with it to get it addressed. All that has resulted since then is essentially painted the plywood. But as I said, it's not addressed, it's not over. I just don't, do you have any more update on the letter that Rick Asman was doing?
Rick told me he was at a conference for a week, came back to work for a week, and I was on vacation. In between there, when he was here last week, he indicated he was sending a letter to Mr. Van Villay, the owner of the building.
Yeah.
It's not yet in his file, so my conclusion is he has not yet actually sent it.
Okay. So I'll provide an update, but it is, it's important because it's a location, that's been on our radar for a long time. It's clearly, it's a gateway into the community. It's a perception of the community. Sometimes it may be somebody's only experience or perception of the community, of driving through and never coming, heading up to 62 and out of town. So it is a priority, but we're looking at, and it might be a bigger conversation, is what's the board's goals and trying to bring back potentially a bylaw to enforce, because I'll be honest with you, it's a little bit of a gray area. Aesthetically is, you're really dealing with aesthetics. You can address it to some degree as blight and a detriment to property values, but there's no public health and safety risk with what's going on there. And that's where a lot of the statute falls and a lot of the nuisance bylaws account for. So, there is a bit of a gray area. I think we can push the angle of property values and detriment, but I think we could also look at a tighter blight bylaw that could address it. Not something like we had a year and a half ago.
Is that building abandoned? I mean,
it is not abandoned.
I've never seen anybody in it.
Yeah, it's just a storage is all it's being used for. It's actually a business. He owns a business in another community, and that's literally just a storage place. So he's never there, really. I mean, put something in and take something out. There's no daily activity there. Yeah.
So we can't use that angle of an abandoned building, sort of like on the river.
Yeah, it's not.
What's the definition of abandoning? I mean, who's tracking his movements in and out? I'm there at Dunkin' Donuts every single day. I've never seen one iota of a person there. In fact, this monstrosity of a black plywood that's from today when I was down there. I took this picture. So if you want to see it, and Jason, no one's ever there. So whether they're using it as storage or not, it's an affront. And when 30 plus people take the time to sign a petition, and then call again today. I had 2 more residents call today, which I share with you. I know Selectman Gavin had the same thing earlier this week, and so does Selectman Silva. So, I mean, it's obviously, they're talking about legally, within the legal means of going and picketing this person's house.
Yeah.
So there's irate citizens here, from a property owner that doesn't live in this town, doesn't seem to care about the benefits of this town. So, we need to find out how to move forward with either changing bylaws or enforcing what's actually there. And I'd love to see a plan in writing from the building commissioner about what he's actually done and what he plans to do. Because I'm not 100% clear that he's actually taken the steps that he probably could have taken. So to me, it's on top of mind as far as trying to clean up this area. That's one of the things that a lot of people are upset about. And there's more than just Murphy and Snyder building, but that's really paramount because it's right there at the corner, as you indicated, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. Totally agree. Agreed, and there's conditions throughout town that are significantly worse, but they're not in those high visibility areas, and, if you looked at it from, what would be a precedence, there's certainly properties that, would rate higher, but the fact that it's a highly visible, gateway, and it absolutely needs to get addressed.
Well, what was the property owner's name, full name?
Edward Van Villay.
Edward Van Villay, do we know where he lives?
Sudbury.
He's of Sudbury, Mass, so hopefully a journalist from the Beacon Villager is getting that information down and can provide that. Maybe Mr. Van Villay can read it or when he sees his name in the paper.
We will provide you before the next meeting what steps have been taken toward that property by the town, including the building commissioner. So you can see that summary. It is more than nothing, but I would like to suggest that we use it as a part of a conversation about a direction our code enforcement should be taking.
Sure, I agree. Sharing information with the residents who are writing petitions about this type of stuff is important, because otherwise they think we just don't care about it, and we're not doing anything about it, because they don't understand all the things that have to go into someone actually making the next step, right? So if we have that and we can share that with people to let them know what we're thinking about and trying to do, not saying it'll make the problem go away, because the problem will only go away when he fixes this issue, right? But at least it'll take the onus off us, not doing anything.
We've introduced him to a person interested in buying the property. And last I spoke, perhaps about 2 weeks ago, they had not come to terms. The buyers indicated that he didn't seem serious about selling. But there's, that's one way to get to code enforcement, is change the owner of the property.
It's back.
Yeah, it's a tough issue. A lot of communities struggle with it, property owners have a lot of rights, but it's not an excuse, but it's not as, hey, I don't like it. It just doesn't allow for, oftentimes, the ability to enforce things like that, so. I don't know if anybody is attending the October 24th Aspet Valley Technical High School official ribbon cutting.
I will be unable to attend.
Okay, so that's nobody. Just one of they'll probably reach out and see if anybody is attending.
It's a Saturday?
Yeah, it's a Saturday. I don't remember what it was, 10 o'clock or...
Early, I think it's early. I think it's like even earlier than that.
Earlier than that, yeah.
I think it's an early event.
Yeah, I'm gonna be in Stover.
Send it out tomorrow morning.
I'm gonna be in
If you
JP.
find out, let me know. It's not that far away.
I thought it was an earlier event.
It's 9 or 10, yeah.
8:30, 9 o'clock.
It was in the packet,
But it goes, I
last meeting, but I can resend it.
think there's a ceremony that kind of lasts, it's an open house type of thing for most of the day, I thought.
Yeah.
That's what the invite said.
Anyway.
Okay. The van, Council on Aging for an opportunity for a photo op. If the board is a photo op with our new van that's been provided by the LRTA. Got some potential dates in the morning, if the board's available, for October 27th, 28th, approximately 9 to 10 a.m., or November 2nd to the 4th in the morning, for the Council on Aging
What
photo
days of
op.
the week are they?
The 27th and 28th is a Tuesday, Wednesday, and the 2nd is a Monday, Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday,
Do
yeah.
Tuesday.
Tuesday the 27th, Wednesday the 28th,
I love vans.
Monday the 2nd, Tuesday.
I have 3 vans?
Tuesday.
Or do we give them
Oh,
back?
the other one went back.
Go back?
Yeah,
How often do they circulate them in and out?
We've been on a bad schedule, but we're getting a second brand new one next year. We'll have two brand new ones, but the ones we got rid of this year and next are gonna be about 8 years old.
So, we can send that out as an email, but just to kind of get that in your head. Last thing I had was regarding a legislative meeting that was held this past Friday in Concord. There's some discussions on solar credit cap, whether to raise or eliminate. Conversation around alcohol licenses, the Narcan issues, sort of regional Narcan issues that communities are dealing with. And then there was a discussion, as we relayed in the finance sort of meeting, with regards to the Chapter 70 formula and how that formula is a big push, and they've taken a lot of input, and they've had other meetings with regards to how that Chapter 70 formula for schools is calculated. So that's all I have.
Okay, thanks.
So a civil service update?
I don't have one for this meeting. It's in the Senate. I haven't heard anything recently. I'll get that update.
Spoke to Jordan
Sorry.
yesterday.
Yeah.
No change.
No change? Okay.
Bummer.
Okay. Just a few quick ones. From last week's, the meeting with Hawthorne, the Lenity Architecture Group, universally, you think, I don't know if anyone has heard any negative comments, but I haven't heard any. It's been universally well-received as far as I can tell. Several people had posted, I posted the link to the website. several others had posted links to the presentation that they made for us, and it was, it seems to be very, very well received by everybody that's looked at it, including people that, from other areas and other towns that have, people in other towns that have Hawthorne in their towns have kind of sent back, oh, no, all good things, but just a comment on that last week's meeting. The second thing is, there are currently 12 board openings, various board openings and committee openings in the town, 11 of which we appoint. So, we need to, anything we can do, anyone can do to try and fill some of them would be great.
Did we just knock off one tonight?
We knocked off one, which was the Conservation Commission, but we have the Green Communities Committee, 2 people. Council on Aging is looking for 1. The Community Preservation Committee is looking for 2 members. The Recreation Commission is looking for 3 members out of 5. Planning Board is still looking for 1.
1, yes, 1 alternate.
One alternate. Bylaw Rewrite Committee is looking for 2 people, and the Board of Appeals is looking for 1 member. But the Bylaw Committee is appointed by the moderator, correct?
That's correct.
So we don't have to worry about that, other than it would be nice to have them all full.
Yeah.
So anyways, those 12 positions are open, and 11 of them, or 10 of them actually, are ours to appoint. So if we could find some volunteers, that would be great. Can you send us, when you get a chance, we talked about it earlier, just a reminder, the updated timeline for the special and the regular
Yes.
meetings, just so we have an idea where we have to be with certain things.
Yep.
And then the final thing that I had written down a note was, in the next couple agendas, could we possibly have be nice to have a discussion in regards to the board's goals for the year, just to, kind of just tick them off, and, some we haven't really touched on yet because of the timing, but others we have, and just, so we have a view of ourselves and what we've done in relation to our goals we set back in August? July? Is it July? July or August? Another meeting at the golf course.
August, maybe, yeah.
Effective July, I think it's August.
All right.
On Aging.
Yeah, by the time
That was it for me, so, Tim, anything?
Going to echo your comments about the openings. Thank you for mentioning that. I was going to say Recreation is in dire need. CPC is also down too. CPC met, and they now have 4 applications for projects, so that's moving pretty good. Question for Andrew. You met with the CPC, and you said all files were on a Selectman's drive. Can you clarify what that Selectman's drive is?
Yeah, it's the name of a computer drive that the town has. We segment our file servers for different departments and for different purposes. Some people have access to some drives, some have access to all of them. When the CPC asked to have all their files scanned in electronically, we chose to store them on the Selectman's drive. We've also provided those files electronically to the chair of the CPC, and we're going to put a subset of those files on the town website, similar to how minutes and agendas are posted. But not all of them. A lot of them are sort of irrelevant documents, but important for us to store, but not necessarily as important to have on the website.
Okay.
So, but that'll happen probably within the next 2 weeks.
And a draft of the conservation restriction was given by you. Can you quickly define what you mean by an organization needs to be the grantee of the restriction?
Yes, for those who don't know what Tim is asking about, the Maynard Golf Course was purchased with community preservation funds, and when you purchase land from that, you need to put it into a trust. The town is still negotiating the terms of what that trust will look like, sort of within its own conversation about how it needs to work, but also the trust has to be independent of the town, so we have to find a willing trustee to take on the restriction. The independent trustee governs, maintains that the property will remain as conservation land in perpetuity. That's the purpose of it, is to keep us from changing our minds about it 30 years from now and turning it into a skyscraper or something. In any case, it's a legal document, it's multiple pages, and, we've been reading through the draft of it, and there's one section that's contradictory to another, and, we're fine-tuning it. But that's what we're working on now, to get that trust document finalized.
Yep, that's all I got.
Jason?
No.
Terrence?
Just closing the loop on the property owners and responsibilities to the town. Now, we still have the problem with the old Maury's Tavern. Still a big broken window and broken door. I know it's been sold and changed hands. Took another picture of it today, so not to just pick on the Murphy and Snyder's building, but it's a couple of them in this area that need to be taken care of. So that's another one. And an example of a good property owner. Babico's had an accident, broken window on the road, not out in the middle of the street where everybody can see it, not in a high traffic area, potentially, went and fixed it the next day. So there are property owners who care, and they should be rewarded and commended for it, and so I thank the owners of Babico's for doing that, and like I said, still need to stay on top of the rest of them. And lastly, update on the Acton Street sidewalk project, when we re-engaging. Last time we talked, it was the Conservation Committee, there was something going on with the with...
The notice of intent was filed. It was provided to Fenton, I think today, actually by Wayne. It's scheduled to start, right? I mean,
Yeah, it was filed almost a week ago with the state. It was heard by the Conservation Commission tonight.
there was a 5-day win, so it should get kicked off going, probably maybe early next week.
Yeah, the intention is we're going to move forward with the project with the permission of the Conservation Commission.
For those that aren't aware, it was a small drainage area that essentially is going to be they're going to be putting a sidewalk in an area that is impacting what is technically wetland. So they're building basically a wall header to address it, but a notice of intent needed to be filed because they'll be working within that area, impacting that area.
Thank you. That's it.
David?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. A couple things. A couple weeks back, Becky provided to Chris, and Chris provided to all of us, a list of license fees from various communities around our area. As I studied it, it looked like there might be an opportunity for us to consider a few of those, and I was wondering if we can plan on putting that on an agenda in the near future. It looks like we might be, some of them are right in line with our neighbors, but some of them I think we might be able to adjust to benefit the town. That's one item. The second item is, I don't expect that everybody's had a chance to see it, because I think it got in there into our the Dropbox late, either today or yesterday. But there's a notice in there about an incident at a liquor store.
Yes, correct.
And I'm wondering why it was chosen not to take that matter forward. I'm a bit concerned because it's a sort of a brand-new owner and a brand-new manager, and to have a situation similar to what we've had at that location before, I think at least it deserves the conversation.
So the reason behind that is it's not a brand-new owner, and it's not a brand-new operator. It's changing hands this week.
Oh, it's this, so the owner remains as the...
Correct. So by the time, that's how it happened when the agenda was set, and at this point, it's sort of mute. It was sort of an FYI. But, one option that should, possibly be out there, because we have had so many issues, is that, the board take a vote never to issue that entity a liquor license. That could be formalized, because it's just had so many issues. But to bring it before the board for...
I didn't realize that the ownership hadn't changed.
Yeah, it's scheduled, the closing is scheduled sometime probably by the end of this week, beginning of next week.
Okay.
Not to interrupt David's point, but wasn't the plan at some point that the same manager that was working for the previous owner was going to be working for the new owner?
No.
So they're going to switch them all up?
Yeah, we met the new
He brought his new owner.
manager.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, it's a different operator.
Did you get that?
It's a Dropbox. I should have added that in my TA report, just so you knew what it was about and what it was referencing. But that was the rationale. We want to make sure it, but at this point, it's kind of unfortunate, and this isn't the first
I
time.
was just concerned seeing it, and I didn't realize there was not a new owner.
When are they making the switch of ownership?
I had asked Becky about if she had a status update of that today. It should be this week, beginning of next week. It'll change effectively. Part of the issue, if you recall, there was some additional information that was needed. The ABCC actually had a hearing, and so there's been some holdup since we approved it at the local level to where it is now. It was all approved at the ABCC, and now they have a closing scheduled.
Yeah, I misunderstood, because I thought that ABCC thing had strictly to do with the manager and not the owner per se.
Yeah. The manager of who was going to be the new owner, so.
Okay,
Okay,
that's it.
all right. So, adjourn this meeting to go to executive session?
Yeah, it's a roll call. and then
Okay, so,
adjourn.
in the matter of property purchases, motion to convene in the executive session. Any seconds?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote for that, and we will not reconvene. David Gavin?
Aye.
Jason Crew?
Aye.
Myself?